I did everything right and they indicted me.
And I don't know what the I'm doing.
Antifa!
Sorry. Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. We are thrilled to be doing this additional special stream. We haven't spoken about Pakistan in a few weeks. We've been focused obviously on Venezuela. And we wanted to make sure that we checked in because as we've said before, this story is ignored by much of mainstream media, but it's even ignored by progressive or leftist media. So we wanted to make sure that we are filling you in. And thank you so much to everyone who joined this extra stream. Make sure if you haven't already, actually, this is a good reminder, make sure you've subscribed because if you subscribe, that's a good way that you'll know that you won't miss these additional streams. And we're doing those kind of more and more. As people probably know, we stream regularly at 7 p.m. on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But given the state of the world, we are doing additional streams quite frequently. We did one on Venezuela last week. We're doing one in Pakistan this week. We'll probably do another one next week. Depends on the breaking news. And also, I wanted to thank everyone. Speaking of subscribing, we are at 400,000 subs, 400,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe. And you do that by hitting the bell, hitting subscribe and then hitting the bell. Also, we wanted to make sure that you like the stream. I mean, we want you to like it. Like, that would be great if you do like it, but also physically like it, show that you like it with a thumbs up. This and subscribing, these are two ways to support the show for free and fight back against the algorithmic suppression. And YouTube, if you're watching, I don't know why we hit 400,000, but for some reason we haven't been able to get a YouTube representative to help us with our channel. And that's something that people with way fewer subs get. So just putting you lovingly on blast in case you're watching the show YouTube. Okay, what else do I have to say? Make sure that you become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And that way you can get bonus content, extra interviews, extended interviews, behind the scenes content. I think we're going to start doing some AMAs, right, Brad? Yeah, he's giving me the thumbs up from backstage. So yeah, we're going to start doing some AMAs, Ask Me Anythings. And if you join for $5 a month, you get access to those AMAs and extra content. If you join for $1 a month, you just get to know that you're making this show possible. Because again, we really couldn't do this show without your support because we, of course, live in the capitalist world system. So we need to engage in capitalism, unfortunately, which means paying people, of course. And there's a cost to putting the show together. So enough of my kind of housekeeping stuff. We're going to get into the show today, and it's extremely important. And we have 3 different guests we're going to be bringing on. Our third guest, going in backwards order, in reverse order, is Hasan Ali, who is a journalist who is based in Pakistan. He's from Pakistan. He's based in Pakistan. Then our second guest is Barrister Shahzad Akbar, who is a living in exile in the UK, who has served as an advisor to Prime Minister Imran Khan. And our first guest, though, we're very excited, is Maryam Wattoo, who has been an active part of Imran Khan's party, PTI, since 2008. And in 2016, she introduced her sister, Bushra Bibi, to future husband Imran Khan. So she's, I guess, responsible for their marriage, for their union. Maryam is a data scientist currently doing her PhD in business administration. And she works for a government entity in the UAE. So welcome to the show, Maryam.
Hi,
Thank
Katie.
you.
Thank you
Hi.
so very much.
Of course.
Let me start by thanking you for all the wonderful work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
And for consistently giving, the voices a space to, through the voices which have been otherwise silenced. And we're grateful for that. This kind of journalism really matters, that you're covering the stories which the mainstream media is otherwise neglecting.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, and it's pretty shameful that the mainstream media and for some reason progressive media has been ignoring this. But Maryam, it's been a few weeks since we've streamed about Pakistan. What is the most important news that is coming out of Pakistan right now as we speak? And of course, how is your sister doing? Who is, of course, the wife of Imran Khan and is also incarcerated.
So, Katie, the news is not very good, especially when it comes to Imran Khan or my sister. It has been like since I think continuously about 3 months now that Imran Khan has been in solitary confinement, other than twice in this time. The 2 times he was allowed to meet each time one of his sisters for like 15, 20 minutes. And my sister, since November 4th, has not been allowed to see any family members, neither the lawyers. They're both in solitary confinement under inhumane conditions, as you must have also seen the letter from the UN to Pakistan, UN Rapporteur for Against Torture, detailing their conditions of confinement, that they are, and against human rights, prisoner rights, and everything. So the news are not really good. You must have also seen the protests that Imran Khan's sisters are regularly hosting outside the jail because they have legal rights to see Imran Khan. My family goes there every Tuesday. This is allowed by law to see the prisoners, but we are not allowed. There is no law, no justice left in Pakistan, very unfortunately.
And we've actually interviewed Alima Khan, one of the sisters of Imran Khan, and we spoke to her on a day that she had been doused in chemicals, and other people, of course, other protesters had been exposed to chemicals, and they used water cannons on them. I just in terms of background, I'm just curious, how did you meet Imran Khan, and what was it like when you introduced him to your sister?
So, as you said, I've been with the party for since long, since 2008. I was the president, Women Wing in UAE, and then the advisor to the overseas chapters for the MENA region. So I was interacting with Imran Khan on that, and I think it was around, again, as you said, 2016 when I introduced him to my sister for spiritual guidance. At that time, of course, we had no idea that what the future holds in store. So that's how I introduced, and I knew him as the party leader.
Right. And what made you become active in the party?
So it was, as you, of course, in USA, there are thousands of Pakistani expatriates. You know that we feel, of course, we are loyal to the countries we live in, but we also have this extreme love for our native country. And that's how, although I was in Canada at the time and I was studying there, I still felt very close to Pakistan. I still do. And that's what, and it's all not only about being my native country. It is home to 250 million people. It's also where we know that a lot of work needs to be done in terms of democracy, rule of law, human rights, everything. So not only in Pakistan, I've been active overseas as well when it comes to, like, for example, Palestinian cause and all that. But because Pakistan is my native land, I feel very close to it.
Right. And just for people who are tuning in and maybe aren't regular viewers of our special Pakistan streams, I do want to just make sure people are updated and know that on December 22nd, Pakistani court sentenced former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife, your sister, Bushra Bibi, to 17 years in a corruption case. So what is your response to the allegations of corruption?
So, Katie, if you look at what they're calling as corruption, you will be surprised. They've changed all the laws to even redefine corruption. So, the corruption that they are, that they sentenced Imran Khan and my sister, saying their corruption charges, was basically just some gifts. And Imran Khan and my sister legally paid for the gifts. Imran Khan actually increased. So, as you know, there is treasury where all the gifts, the state gifts go. This was a gift to my sister from Prince Salman, Mohammed bin Salman, from KSA. It was a personal gift. They still deposited in the treasury, paid whatever was a legal cost to, then get the gift, keep the gift. And they did that. So there was nothing illegal. So this is what they are calling as corruption. Now, why they made this case? Because my sister held no office and they wanted to convict her also in some case because they wanted to, through torturing my sister, keeping her confined, they're actually torturing Imran Khan. they are actually pressurizing him to accept their terms and conditions. So if you look into the details of the cases, the first time it was made, and it is the same case made again and again. The first time it was made, conviction done, and then the courts threw it out. Now they have changed the whole court process. As you know, even the UN wrote a letter that whatever happening there is not legal. The way they have passed the amendments and everything, the courts are actually just stamping whatever these, the authoritarian regime is saying, asking them to do. So it's not actually corruption. It's just political persecution.
And so they're trying to use your sister as leverage.
Absolutely, because Imran Khan is very close to my sister. He highly respects her, loves her. So through putting her through this extreme inhumane conditions, as you must have read, that she's in a very small cell. There are rats in her cell. During summer, there was no AC. They even sometimes switch off the electricity. Imagine in the heat of 48 degrees centigrade. They did not provide her medical care when she was sick. Repeatedly, they poisoned her when she was in jail, slow poisoning through HCl. Then did not provide her any medical care despite the court orders. After 8 weeks, they took her for the test. They completely changed her test results. Sometimes I feel like it's House of Cards, it's Games of Thrones, it's something like that. It's just so. I feel I'm in a movie. The things that are being done there, I just saw them in movies, but I'm now witnessing these things.
Right. So when is the last time, can you just clarify again when the last time you were able to communicate with your sister was and what kind of communication that was?
So when the family goes and sees her, because I'm outside of Pakistan and I've not gone back
Right.
because of the similar fears. When my family goes to meet her, then they come and they tell me, and I speak for her. So they tell me her conditions, what condition she's in. So I get her the first-hand reports through my family. The last time I personally spoke to her was when she was briefly let out of the jail last year. It has been again more than 10 months now. 11 months that she's been in jail again. So I spoke to her when she was briefly allowed, she was briefly released from one case. And then they arrested her in the other case. And the cases are similar in nature. As I told you, they're recycling the cases. They're the same cases that they're filing again under different pretexts.
Right. So this kind of begs the question of why they are going after Imran Khan. I mean, I understand that, of course, they're using his wife, but why are they going after Imran Khan in the first place? What is who is he threatening? I mean, not threatening, like for whom is his being giant PM a threat? Yeah.
So again, we go back to 2022, and who is he threatening? Nobody really. He wasn't threatening anybody directly. He was working very wholeheartedly, very diligently for Pakistan, for the betterment of Pakistan. If you see all the indicators when he was the prime minister, despite during that time, COVID hit the world, and it was everybody, all the countries were suffering. But despite that, Pakistan GDP was increasing. Pakistan was progressing. If you even look at the COVID deaths and during that Imran Khan's time, they were very limited. So all that was very positive, and Pakistan was progressing. He wasn't threatening anybody directly, but indirectly, I think he was a challenge to the international establishment because he's not a yes boss person.
Right.
He's a person of his own mind, and he knew that he has the people of Pakistan behind him. So he wasn't a weak prime minister. He knew that he could make tough decisions. He could challenge some international, you can say, powers. He didn't want to challenge, but he could have. He had the strength of character, and he had the strength of people with him. So I think that is why he was a threat.
Right. And again, I phrased it a little awkwardly. I don't want anyone to think I'm claiming that he is threatening people. I mean, and as you understand, Maryam, because you responded this way. But again, it's my question was for who sees him as a threat to the powers that be. No, I understand you say that. Understand that. I just want to make sure that everyone in the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, I understand that when you say he's not threatening anybody, but we sometimes we don't threat anybody, but they still feel threatened.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And what has your family said about the conditions that your sister is facing? What has she relayed to them? I mean, you mentioned the extremely hot jail cell. It's not very big. I didn't know that there were rats in there.
Oh,
Did they
yes,
say?
yes, yes. So, yeah, what they did was last time when she was in prison, she told this to me herself when she came out that they had the gutter, the sewage holes. They had opened the one that was passing through her cell. They had opened the cover of it. Can you imagine? And she was in a small cell with that sewage
Oh,
hole
they
open.
opened the
And so
manhole, I guess, right? Is
the
yeah.
manhole, yes, and the rats would come out of it. And she told me herself that when she would be praying in that room, the rats would fall on her from the ceiling even. And then the ceiling was so poor that during rain it starts leaking. And her mattress, they didn't even give her proper bed. Her mattress would get wet, and many times she got the electrical shock because the water would seep into the electrical circuits. The food that they gave her is very bad. After they poisoned her through HCl, her whole digestive system is messed up. And but still, when they give her food, they put chilies in it, so she can't even eat it. So she has lost a lot of weight, about 15 kgs since she was arrested. So all these conditions are very inhumane, against international law, against Pakistan law. But again, as I said, there is no law and justice left in Pakistan.
Right. And can you elaborate more on the way that that you're saying she's been poisoned? And what is HTL?
So, first time when she was arrested and when she was under house arrest, they put her under house arrest. One day when she was having food, she suddenly felt that her esophagus is burning. So, and then she tried to take, of course, if we feel burning, we'll take water. When she took the water, it even burned her more. And then she couldn't speak or eat. It was all burnt. She couldn't speak or eat for days. And during those 15, 20 days, they blocked us. They did not let family or the lawyers see her. When finally family met her after 20 days, she told them that she has been very sick. She wasn't provided any help. She couldn't even drink a sip of water because all her esophagus and her stomach was burnt. She said if she eats something, it feels like she has an iron placed on her stomach. So then I checked the symptoms that she gave me. I checked what was happening, and then an informant from the jail told us that she was being slow poisoned with HCl, which is form of a chemical you find in the cleaning substances. They were slow poisoning her food. But that day, I think whosoever put that liquid in her food, they put maybe more dosage, and then she got very sick. Now, when she got sick and she told us about that, we applied for a medical test. Now, the medical tests were not allowed to be conducted until after 8 weeks, which means they wanted any signs of poison to wash away.
Right.
Then, even when they conducted the test, they were the hospital of their own choosing, and they never gave me the endoscopy report. When they do the endoscopy, there is a video that is made. I requested the hospital, our lawyers requested, we filed applications. The video wasn't given to us. They just took some samples and said she was fine. She wasn't.
Right.
So she has suffered through everything, you name it, and she's just being punished because she's a loyal wife and she's standing by Imran Khan.
And there have been rumors. I mean, I just have to ask you about this so you have a chance to respond. But there are rumors that she engaged. Well, let me back up a little bit. What kind of spiritual advising does she do, and which made you introduce her to Imran Khan?
So her knowledge about Islam is very deep, and so she will not, she advises as per the Islamic, you can say, law, the readings, and basically, for example, I'm a believer. I'm a very strong believer. And if I have any trouble in my life, I'll first resort to my religion. I find solace in my religion. I find solace in praying. So that is how like, for example, if you talk to her and you tell her that I have these X, Y, and Z problems in my life, she will just narrate to you some passage from Quran and ask you to be patient and, endure, and these are the tests of life, things like that. Things like maybe a psychologist would talk to you about, but it's like you can say it's an Islamic, it's a faith sort of faith-based psychology, you can say.
Okay,
That
got
is
it.
how she advises, yes.
Right. Now, there are some rumors, critics of her will say that she practices like black magic. So what is your response to that claim, which I'm sure you've heard, right?
Absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. Absolutely. I mean, what can I say, Katie? In this day and age, to just mark a woman who is just spiritual and very, devout, to mark her, to label her as conducting magic. And this is actually, I don't know, the people who make these allegations, they are very serious allegations. As per our religion, they're very serious allegations. I don't know how they make it. They don't have any evidence of it, of course, but they still keep claiming it. She's very devout Muslim. She's conservative like I am and like many of us are, but that's it. But they just make it up because I think she's a very private person. She has been a very private person. She never wanted to be in media. I even told her when these rumors were being initially spread against her, I told her that you should, counter them. You should talk to the media. You should at least tell Imran Khan to talk about it. And she's just leave it up to God. She's very, she will just leave it up to God. She says they're just making it up, so just leave it up to God.
Okay, yeah. And what else does Imran Khan stand for and fight for? And what made you politically support him?
So if we look at the other options in Pakistan and if you want to really do something for Pakistan, there is only one name that outshines all other names, and that's Imran Khan. He's very, very devoted, as we all know, to the country and its people. And whatever he's doing and whatever he's suffering at the age of 73 in his tiny jail cell in solitary confinement is only because he wanted to do his best. And he has done his best. All the cancer hospital, the free cancer hospitals, the free universities. Who else could I follow if not Imran Khan if I wanted to do anything for Pakistan? And I still very much believe in him. And I still very much believe in him. Why? Because I know he's very, very dedicated to his country.
Now,
not even to his country, Katie, even even to the world. Like he's the person who will never go for wars. He's the person who will always go for peace.
Right, and he's very concerned with other, like with Palestine, for example.
Palestine, yes.
He's spoken out against that, yeah. And just a reminder, I mean, you said this, but the UN Office of High Commissioner has said that her treatment is abhorrent. So they said, quote, "The state has an obligation to protect Mrs. Khan's health and ensure conditions of detention compatible with human dignity." And then the report says the conditions in which she's being held fall far below minimum international standards. No detainee should be exposed to extreme heat, contaminated food or water, or conditions that aggravate existing medical conditions. And as you said, that she's lost a bunch of weight. She had a tooth abscess and a stomach ulcer. And this is obviously not the kind of treatment that anyone deserves, regardless of, I mean, even if this person, even if someone's guilty of something, you can't do this. But of course, as you pointed out, most people say this is a politically motivated prosecution, not one based on actual reality. And something that Alima Khan said was that her brother had been offered the chance to leave the country, basically, and that he refuses to do that because he refuses to kind of play the game or legitimize this persecution that he's been facing. Have you heard about that through your sister? Is she in that same, is she taking that same position?
Yeah, absolutely. They're in it together. And they're standing by their principles. They said they will never leave Pakistan. Even if they're given an opportunity, and they were given an opportunity, they want to just stay there. It's a country, and they want to be there. And I don't know what's the end of it. I hope that both sides get some, kind of find a middle ground for the betterment of Pakistan. Because whatever is happening in Katie is not only bad for our families. We are suffering. We are personally suffering, of course. My mom is 80 plus. She misses my sister. She cries almost every day. But on the other hand, she's also very strong, my mom. She says that, whatever is best, she believes in the test of life, and she's whatever, God will do whatever is best for my sister. But of course, she's 80. I worry about my mom that she might not be able to see my sister again. So at personal level, yes, we are suffering. But I also know that on the principle level, I will also not ever ask my sister Imran Khan to give up their principles. But I hope and I just pray that all the parties think about Pakistan and 250 million people and how it is affecting the people. You look at the 45% have gone below the line of poverty during last 3 years since they removed Imran Khan. If they removed Imran Khan and they would have done better for Pakistan, I think people would not be as upset as they are because they will say they have better options. But Pakistan has gone down in all indicators economically. There is no foreign direct investment, nobody, because there is no political stability. So without Imran Khan, there will be no political stability. There is no future for. I don't see how it will happen.
Well, any final things that you want to say for this interview before we bring on our next guest? And this has been very helpful and elucidating. I'm sorry for what your sister's going through.
Thank you, Katie. I was thinking for your audience, which is mostly in the USA, and I know you have an international audience too. So how does this story matters? Why does it matter? So I would like to just tell you about the butterfly effect, which we all know that nothing is a small thing, no injustice is a small injustice. Anything that is happening anywhere, if in Pakistan, whatever is happening in Pakistan, if the other countries start tolerating it, this model becomes normalized and it will be then adopted in other countries because other dictators will see that the world is silent. So no injustice is small injustice. And if there is chaos in Pakistan, I hear often the influencers in USA talking about the influx of the immigrants and all that. If these countries do not have chaos, if people have opportunities in their countries, the countries like US will not have to throw out the immigrants and you will not have need ICE and all that. So no injustice in one part of the world, it impacts every other part of the globe. And this is a story of a woman who is suffering for her husband, all kind of cases against her. It's an issue of women rights and everything. So I hope you keep raising this issue. And thank you again for having me on your show.
Well, actually, a final question for me is, what are any leaders speaking out on his behalf, and are any people in other countries, not just leaders, but the people of other countries, are they speaking out on his behalf and on your sister's behalf, of course?
So people, wherever there is Pakistani diaspora, very strongly, as you know, in USA, they're speaking out, they're reaching out to the congressional leaders in UK. In Jeremy Corbyn is a very active voice. He speaks for Imran Khan always. And in USA, I hope that by you raising these issues more and more voices, and we have a very strong, active group, Pakistani diaspora in USA. And they are very actively working with the congressional leaders. But one thing, Katie, last point, I just want President Trump to know that our government in Pakistan is not the government that the people elected. And you know why I'm saying that?
Current government.
I love the sovereignty of my country. I don't want to, but I'm just saying that the democracy should not be selective.
Right.
Like justice should not be selective. So democracy should not be selective.
And another thing I want to do is, well, amen to that. But another thing I want to do would show people what, well, in case anyone had any doubts that you two were related. One second. That you and your sister are indeed related. We don't need any DNA test. Not that this is being contested at all, but very strong family resemblance between you and your sister. Here she is.
Yes.
So,
yes.
as everyone can see.
Yeah. We do resemble. And one more thing, lastly, Katie, that I was that article in Economist in 1843 magazine about my sister, myself, and my family, labeling us as anti-West and Islamist and all that. And nothing can be far from the truth. As you know, I've been educated outside, living outside with the Western. So just for your Western audience, that just because we are conservative and we cover and we wear hijab, that doesn't mean we are anti-West or we are Islamist. It's not like that.
Right, of course. Okay, well, thank you so much. And we would love to, I just see breaking news that I haven't verified this, but I see there's on YouTube, it's saying that, what show is this? It's not in English, so I can't. Apparently, Imran Khan meets wife Bushra Bibi in Adiala jail. This was
last night. They've been saying that they met last night because yesterday, Tuesday, is the meeting of the family. They did not allow our family to meet. Our family was there. My family, Imran Khan's family, were all there. They were all there, but they didn't allow them to meet. But then they spread this news that Khan and Bibi met. we don't have any confirmation because, of course, we haven't met them. So unless we meet, we don't have any confirmation of
Got it.
anything.
Okay, so you're saying it hasn't been confirmed, but there are claims that they met for 45 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, got it. In the prison conference room.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, we will keep everyone posted, and would love to have you back on the show. And again,
Thank you.
our condolences for the way your sister and brother-in-law are being treated.
I hope it gets better. Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that was really informative and helpful, and we are going to keep the show going. Let's see, how are we doing? I hate to ask this, but I got to check how we're doing on likes, because that is. Sorry about that. I'm checking in on the likes. Oh, we got good likes in the good number of likes in the horizontal viewing. I'm going to see how you guys in the vertical viewing are doing. Let's take a look at this. We can set up some maybe competition. Just kidding. Vertical views, we got not as good. So guys, you're watching on your phone, you can still give a thumbs up. And again, this is a way to fight back against the suppression, algorithmic suppression. As I pointed out, YouTube has not given us, I mean, I don't mean to sound like spoiled or entitled, but it is custom for YouTube to, when you've reached a certain number of subs, they reach out to you and give you a representative to help you maximize your YouTube exposure. And people with, a quarter of our viewers get those. So I am curious as to why we haven't gotten one. And again, you vertical watchers, you really got to pull your weight because you're at less than half of you have liked, and I'm sure not half of you are hate watching. So, okay, we are going to keep the show going. We have another wonderful guest that we are so excited. And all three guests today are making their Katie Halper Show debut. So we're going to bring on Barrister Shahzad Akbar, who is a Pakistani barrister exiled in the UK. He served as an advisor to Prime Minister Imran Khan on important portfolios such as interior and accountability in the capacity of a federal minister and cabinet. He is also known for his human rights work, particularly representing civilian victims of U.S. drone strikes in Pakistan, which is, of course, extremely important and which we will talk about during our interview. So please welcome to the show, Shahzad Akbar. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Katie. Thank you. I'm very well.
Thank you so much for joining. And you also have gone through recent personal hardship. You have been the victim of arson. Can you tell us about that before we talk about the larger case against Imran Khan and against you, which, I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. I mean, arson is the third attempt on me while I'm in exile. In 2023, I faced an acid attack. There was a targeted acid attack at my house. I opened the door. My 4 or 5 years old daughter was standing behind me, and acid was thrown at me. And my house was already under watch by the authorities, and yet that happened in Britain. And then moving forward, on 24th of December, it was just a day after we have been protesting outside the Pakistani High Commission against Imran Khan's incarceration and solitary confinement. And the very next morning, I was woken up by a ringed bell, and I opened the door, and there's a man standing there, asked my name, and started throwing punches. I was assaulted. It was a serious attack, threat to life, and the police is investigating that attack as a targeted attack. And then while we were relocated by the authorities in Britain under this severe threat, my house was attacked once again on 31st of December in the evening with two men trying to break in and set the house at fire. Due to our neighbors and everyone around, they fled the scene and fire brigades were called, and it was like it was saved from a bigger damage. But while I'm in exile, I'm still relocated by the authorities, and this is what the state of affairs is in Britain right now.
Yeah, so this is quite an international story. How did you avoid the acid that was thrown at you?
Well, I didn't avoid it. I took on half of my face on this side of my face. There are still some marks on my face. and the body, because my house was under a watch, and the emergency services were at scene within 3 minutes of incident. Washing and doing the early care helped a little, but it took me about 6 to 8, 9 months to recover from that.
Wow. And I assume that this was very traumatic for your daughter. How does one even explain that to a little girl?
Well, it's hard to explain, especially when it is happening consistently. And this is the third time they had to witness that, because even on the morning of 24th December, my wife and children were at home and they witnessed what was happening. It took me a while to throw the assailant out of the house, call the authorities. Given that it was Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, it was it was really a trial for all of us, and especially since then. I mean, it's hard to explain to my kids why they're not going to school, when will they go to school, and all those details. I mean, there are a lot of details which, because this is an active investigation, I cannot share or divulge at the moment. But it is really a trying time for our family.
And I don't mean to hopefully like re-traumatize you, but what did it feel like? Is it very painful? Because I know some acid like can blind people and leave very big scars, which you luckily don't have. But what was the substance? What did it feel like?
Well, it was it was harrowing, because it's a burning, because when acid is thrown, although it was a low grade acid, and the intent, it seems, was to maximize blind me and also send a clear message, whoever was ordering this or doing this, because I'm sure the man who did it was just a pawn.
Sure.
And it's very painful, of course. The instant reaction by me was to instantly start washing my face, and I was told by the doctors later on that that's what actually saved my skin. Because had I waited even like few minutes and let the burning grow, then it would have burned my skin and my eyes. But luckily, as I wear glasses, and I was wearing at that time, so the acid couldn't get into my eyes, because that acid would have clearly blinded me. So yeah.
And so again, just going back to, I'm just curious. I don't mean to pry. It's like such a. I mean, one of the things that we don't really think about when people are being politically persecuted is how it affects their children. But this is very, has a large effect on especially young children. So when you do you explain to your kid? I mean, how do you explain what happened in a way that your children understand?
Well, you have to. I think as we are in exile, they also had to flee Pakistan in 2023 when my house was raided in Pakistan, where my family was living, and I was in exile. And initially, we thought that I would be able to go back. But in post May of 2023, as we all know, what happened in Pakistan, that Pakistani military led government thought they have a license to kill, and they started attacking every PTI or PTI associated's house, although I was not there, but still my house was attacked. My brother was picked up, kidnapped, tortured, kept in illegal custody for over 100 days. And that's the time when my wife and children had to flee Pakistan. And that was also in middle of night. It was hard to explain to them that they were in their PJs, and the mother wakes them up and brings them to England. And so that's I think that thing is still ongoing, and I think that's the price that the families have to pay in our part of the world for standing up for their principles. But I think the thing to explain to your children is you actually need to talk to them, and you need to tell them what their father do. And it's the situation is not, they also see how much their father is loved and cared by other Pakistani diaspora in the UK where we live. They see so much love and affection by other Pakistanis here. So I think in a way they get to understand that what our father do and what he stands for, and sometimes you have to face these things in life. So I think that's one way of explaining. But still, as a father, you feel that I think you're putting them through way more than an ordinary child.
Wow. Yeah. Well, again, I'm so sorry that you have to go through that and your children have to go through that. Can you give us some? Well, and actually, we're gonna return to who is responsible for these attacks. But can you give us some background on how you got involved in politics and your work with Imran Khan?
Well, the background is, I mean, to begin with, I was never in politics, but I was a political commentator and I was a human rights lawyer plus activist. I initiated the what we call drone litigation in Pakistan, and I challenged the US-led drone strikes in Pakistan back in 2009 and 10. And I started digging for civilian victims of drones. I worked with American universities, including Stanford, NYU, Colombia. We published reports. We did a lot of research. I work with international human rights organizations like Reprieve in the UK or CCSR in the US. And, we gathered a lot of data.
Center for Constitutional Rights, which is
yes,
they're
Center for Constitutional Rights. So we gathered a lot of data. We brought cases. We sued the United States government. We sued the CIA. So we did all that work. And the only support we were getting politically on ground back in 2010 when we were challenging these drone strikes. And our whole argument then was that these strikes are counterproductive to the US, the so-called mission of fight against terrorism, because actually, and they are not precise as they are advocated by the defense industry. They're as precise as the intelligence is, and we know how flawed the intelligence can be. And this is something illegal. And this was the center of my whole campaign for almost 10 years. And during this work, the only political leader in Pakistan who was openly opposing the US drone strikes in Pakistan and the human rights violation in the war on terror was Imran Khan. And that was my association from those days with Imran Khan and his ideology. And when in 2018 he became the prime minister, he invited me to head his anti-corruption campaign, because my previous work before the human rights lawyer was a anti-corruption prosecutor, working for the Pakistani government back in the days when I was able to prosecute a lot of high-profile cases, including the Bhuttos and Zardari's cases overseas as well. So that was the reason I was invited, and then that's how I joined his cabinet. And I worked for 3.5 years to put the house in order, but I think I failed. And we can get into the reason why I failed. Our people who were being investigated for corruption, they are now prime minister, president, ministers, everything.
Well, yeah, please. I mean, I don't want to encourage you to blame yourself, but please explain, can you elaborate on that? Like because it is, of course, important to look at mistakes made in order to figure out how to respond now, how to do things in the future for other people who have faced the kind of persecution that Imran Khan is facing and you faced, but also even to figure out how to kind of recalibrate in the moment. So what, I guess more generally, and then we can zoom in on this other question, but what happened to Imran Khan? Why was he targeted? And then we can talk about kind of perhaps the lessons that you learned from this.
I mean, Katie, I talk very openly and frankly about things, and I have no, qualm in admitting that Imran Khan for a bit thought that he and the Pakistani military can work together, and this was the reason behind him working with the then Army Chief Qamar Javed Bajwa. And I think Imran Khan, being an outsider from day one till 2018, because he has never been in government, he had never had power. And he always from the outside realized or thought, and I think he also fell prey to the propaganda that the Pakistani military did so well that they actually hate corruption. And the only reason they intervene every time or every 10 years into the democratic process is because of the corruption of politicians. Now, this is a very interesting scenario. The corruption of politicians is not all made in air. Of course, there is corruption in political system, but the military uses that narrative of anti-corruption to justify them getting into power and into the whole government setup. So I think this is the realization that came through experience and experiment itself for Imran Khan as well, because while we were working on the whole anti-corruption agenda, because this is what Imran Khan's coming into politics was for, and this is what his party stands for, because that's basically justice and accountability. This is the whole motto of Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. And that's basically when you realize that actually the military has been using the narrative or the idea of anti-corruption to tame the politicians so that they do not challenge the hegemony of Pakistani military that it enjoys. And then you get to look into the institutional corruption that the whole Pakistani military itself is conducting, because look at their own industrial empire. I mean, which army or military in the world runs a business which is over $200 billion worth? I mean, Pakistani military is the largest corporation in Pakistan. Even the BBC published a report a couple of months ago which shows that the industry or the family or a set of companies of Pakistani military under Fauji Foundation or Askari Welfare Trust is one which has swelled to this much money. They only listed one company a few months ago, and that company is assessed at $6 billion. There is no company in Pakistan that is worth that much. So you can understand, their involvement in the governance system and the exploration of the resources and everything. And this is what I think the real conflict was between Imran Khan and the military, because the army general, I think these are just names. I don't think there is any difference between the current army chief Asim Munir or the previous army chief or the chiefs before, and I don't think there will be a difference with anyone upcoming, because the idea and the institution and the mindset behind is similar. Is the maximization of profit for them and gaining more and more political space in decision maker. The only difference that we have now is, let's say 20 years ago, 5 years ago, or 15 years ago, the military was not so much in the forefront, but right now everything is being done by them, and so openly and so bluntly. I mean, I can go on and on, but I think what they are being able to achieve now, they were not able to achieve with Imran Khan. So, for example, if they wanted the military to run certain departments, Imran Khan will oppose that. If the military would want to ease on some corruption cases, Imran Khan would oppose that. And I think that's what was the real conflict between Imran Khan and General Bajwa back in the days.
And what about Asim Munir? What can you tell us about him?
Well, Asim Munir was, he, I mean, back in Imran Khan's government, he was the DG of ISI, which is Pakistan Secret Intelligence Agency, which has an internal working and external too. He was changed from that position after 8 months in. There are very conflicting stories. I mean, Asim Munir would like to think that because he told Imran off on about some corruption of Imran Khan, that's why he was sent out from that posting, whereas Imran Khan's version is different. But the fact remains that the Prime Minister removed him as the DG of ISI, and then 3.5 years later, he became army chief. And what looks like now is the revenge of what was done to him. I mean, this is very simply put. But I think we have to look at Asim Munir in a bigger picture now, because before Asim Munir, I would say that army chiefs, when they did not impose martial law, they will be acting behind the scene. But Asim Munir, since his coming into the role of army chief, has elevated himself to a field marshal. He has practically have done away with all other institutions in the country, including the judiciary. Amnesty International a couple of days ago issued a report saying the 27th constitutional amendment is basically doing away with Pakistani judiciary. I mean, forget about independence of judiciary. There is no judiciary left. So there are no, I mean, Parliament was already under the command of some army colonel. So in reality, it is basically Asim Munir's law in Pakistan, and he, as a field marshal who has given himself immunity for lifetime. I mean, this is a dream for President Trump, probably, that he can never be prosecuted for anything. But that dream has seen reality in Pakistan that Asim Munir has given himself to. And he sits in the decision making of government. The Prime Minister, the so-called Prime Minister of Pakistan, publicly announces every second day that he do whatever the field marshal tells him. And so I think that's what Asim Munir is now. He is practically running the country, and he is the judge, he is the jury, and he is the executioner.
Yeah, and that's to someone who he actually said about you. Let's see, I have a quote from him. I don't even want to see his face. He said
That's
that
the
during a press conference.
that's the Director General of Inter-Services Public Relations. So that's one of his general who do not want to see my face, and my face was disfigured about 3 weeks later at my house. I'm
Sorry,
not.
so it wasn't a Simonir or someone who worked for him who said that? I'm sorry, I thought it was.
No. That's the Director General of the propaganda wing.
Okay.
He's the Goebel of the Field Marshal.
The Goebbels of, yeah, that's pretty scary. So he said, I don't even want to see his face. So that's a compliment, right? When you're hated, you can welcome their hatred.
Well, it's a compliment because the day he said that, I got about 40,000 more subscribers to my YouTube channel. So I would invite him to say that time and again, so I actually can go
Okay.
in millions. But I mean, that was very encouraging. What is not encouraging and scary is that when I was assaulted 3 weeks later, and the person was aiming just at my face. I'm not pointing any fingers here, but is it a coincidence that both incidents took place at my place? The very next day, I have been protesting outside Pakistani High Commission.
Wow.
And I would say peacefully.
You were also, so you've been persecuted, you've been attacked, you were placed on a no-fly list. There are attempts to extradite you.
Yeah.
And also your brother was abducted in Pakistan to pressure you to testify against Imran Khan. So what can you tell us about all of these, in addition to the acid attack and the arson, what can you tell us about this larger persecution against you and also against your brother?
See, what's happening to me in particular is one specific case, but it's a broader theme of transnational repression, which this current regime seems to be so much in love with. But in my particular case, because the regime is so desperate to get Imran Khan convicted in one solid case where they can tell the world, oh, look, we got him and he is corrupt just as us. I think this is the whole theme of it. And they have gone through almost 200 cases registered against Imran Khan. And every case is not worth a dime. But one particular case they actually have prosecuted and I would say persecuted and convicted him is called the so-called 190 million case. I mean, to be very honest, Katie, that case emanates from United Kingdom. I am living in United Kingdom. If there was anything about that case in reality, I would not be living here. I will not be working here. I will not be granted visas because I'm not a British national. I'm still Pakistani national, and they've taken away my passport. But I'm being, supported and allowed to live here. So it means, I mean, there's nothing in that case. That case should be an example where, a sum of money was repatriated to Pakistan under a civilian settlement, like a civil settlement, through the British courts as well. But because the regime was so desperate to tarnish Imran Khan's name, they actually ruined their own relationship with Britain. Because today, when we're talking about, we entered into a justice and accountability initiative with United Kingdom in 2018. And that lasted 3 years. And those 3 years, we worked on so many cases together. We did investigations, white collar crimes, repatriation of funds, extradition of people on both sides. Now, since this government has come in and they have started such cases, UK is not cooperating with Pakistan on these matters because they are not very happy because other countries, you do not care who is in power, which political government is in power. When two countries cooperate on especially law enforcement actions or joint investigation, it is done country to country, not as party A is in power, party B is in power. So I think that's the reality of that case. And this is an allegation. They say that Imran Khan benefited someone, but actually the government of Pakistan got benefited. The money was in Supreme Court's account. For 4 years, it actually generated a huge sum of profit, which is still there. Not even a single penny went into Imran Khan's or my or anyone else's account. It was throughout the time in the Supreme Court account. The Chief Justice of Pakistan at that time accepted that money to be deposited. And then 4 years later, they thought, oh no, we want to prosecute Imran Khan, therefore we will, not accept this money now. And what did they do? they still took that money. So the money is basically now spent on the very same purpose that it was repatriated for. The reality of that persecution or prosecution, whatever you call it, is not dissimilar to all other cases. Imran Khan, I mean, they brought the false marriage allegation. It's an allegation which is never heard of. I mean, this is, and that was a really low. And you asked me, Katie, about Asim Munir. I worked with this gentleman, if I can call him, for 8 months when he was DGISI, and I was advisor for accountability and interior. No one has in this current system. I still talk to people back home, people who work with him. No one has the courage to tell him what he is doing is just simply wrong. And it's not even, the Pakistani army was actually, liked by generally most of the people in Pakistan. If you do an honest poll today, you will not find many people who will be approving of army's action, and that has happened in last 3 or 4 years. Pakistani army, whenever they actually, moved against democracy, they still had done bit of the groundwork, and they never were this open, because one particular thing, Katie, in last 4 years, what they've done, and the prime example is Imran Khan. These political sort of behavior against each other were only limited to the person themselves, not to the families. Never the family or children were involved. And this is the first time when women are being incarcerated, family members are being threatened. There are so many stories. The people of the level of federal minister were made to leave politics, or otherwise their daughters will be put to horrible conditions. So these are the kind of, this is the kind of situation people are dealing with in Pakistan. And what it does in the end, it actually opens people's eyes to the growing grip of Pakistani military over Pakistani system. And I think that's not a long lasting strategy. It might be serving one individual general or field marshal, but it will not serve the institution in the longer run. And I think that's something for the institution and for the whole nation to think. If they really want to sustain their hegemony over the system, they cannot be pushing people to the brink.
And this is Asim Munir, by the way.
Yes.
And what else do we need to know about him? Because I don't think that that Americans especially don't really know about his biography and his trajectory.
Well, I would say he's promising Americans and President Trump a lot of mines and minerals, but there are no mines and minerals to give, because the place that you have to extract the mines and minerals have been a war zone, and it's a real struggle. And while we were in government, we heard so many stories about finding of some hidden oil or gems, and we were not able to enter that area, because there are two areas which may have those rare earth minerals, is Balochistan and the northwest tribal areas, and both areas are literally they have been warbed for last 3 decades, and there are so many issues within that area with the federal government, involving the rights of the local people and indigenous people. Until those issues are resolved, for any international corporation to explore in that area, it's a very uphill task.
Right. Now, can you talk about some of the ways that you think that people are successfully advocating for Imran Khan? I mean, has there been any successful kind of mitigation of his treatment? What are your predictions?
Well, you see, the treatment, what's happening to Imran is now internationally recognized inhumane and torturous treatment. And in terms of how people can advocate within the country, when people came out time and again, they have been fired with bullets, live bullets, and that's what the state of affairs is within Pakistan. People in overseas, especially in the US and UK, have been lobbying, doing citizen lobbying, especially in the US. They have been reaching out to their senators and representatives, and same thing is with MPs. And I think that's what Pakistani government does not like, and that's why we see this now growing trend of transnational repression. But the diaspora has been reaching out. And of course, the diaspora, including myself, we are not very resourceful. We actually have to put a lot at risk to talk and convince the world what's really going on. I think at the time of regime change, the international politics played in favor of Pakistani military because you had a Ukraine crisis at that time. The US or the Europe actually wanted ammunition and support, material support, which was coming from Pakistani military. So I think at that time, they they let few things slip, but I think now the timing is changed, and the larger Pakistani diaspora living in the West have been able to reach out and convince the people and tell the people the real stories. And I think it takes time, and the real stories are coming out. And I think I would urge all those who are working on this issue, including yourselves, uh, you know find stories, find human stories, because this is what my learning is from 10 years of anti-drone work. The only reason, when I started working on drones, I was a consultant for USAID as well, and I lost my my job because of my work.
Of
But
course.
one thing I was told by an American diplomat then is that we do not care because we do not hear much on ground. And that's what, in real world, the thing is, if you do not reach out, and if you do not tell the stories, if you do not tell what's going on is wrong, you cannot change policies, you cannot change these things. I mean, sometimes people think that ordinary citizen and ordinary voices do not matter, but trust me, I've seen this, it matters, because end of the day, in especially civilized democratic societies, people do listen to their constituents. People do listen to what people are saying. It's just that we have to find those words, we have to find those mediums to reach out to them. And we are thankful to forums like YouTube, or any other forums. So we might not like the people who run it, for example X, but at least they provide you that space to say your thing. And then it depends, then the public decide who they want to listen to and hear to. I mean, if you ask Pakistani military right now what is their greatest fear, and I'm 100% sure they will say the social media. And
Yeah.
this is what they don't like, right? And that's the space where there's a huge debate going on in Pakistan between about the Gen Z versus boomers. And I think that's what it is all about, the Gen Z and the social media, and how the youth of Pakistan has been able to uh, you know express themselves on social media, be it memes, be it YouTube, be it political commentary, content creation. Uh, I often call it the new poetry, because someone asked me a while ago that how come PTI is facing so much suppression these days, but we do not see great poets or literature coming
Mhm.
out of this suppression. And I say, well, today's poetry by Gen Z is on Instagram and not on a piece of paper. And this is a new world, and there is new resistance. So I think it's a movement. It might take time, but we are very lucky that I would say that Imran Khan is unlike all those politicians in Pakistan from the past who were able to, who were not able to fight the fight till last breath. And I have worked very closely with Imran. I've known him closely for over 15 years, and I know that he's got that that the Pakistanis need. I mean, this is the last hope. I mean, if we really want a true democratic, progressive Pakistan, that is only achievable through Imran and no one else. Because after Imran, we do not see any political leader who has that ability and clear understanding that which road leads us to that freedom. So we just hope and pray that he is able to keep his fight going. And I think he is gaining people's support more and more.
And yeah, and can you talk more about this transnational repression that you just referred to, especially the involvement of the United States and the UK, but more generally, UAE, any other countries, Israel, any other countries that you think need to be called out, I guess.
Well, I call it the friendly states. The Pakistan is one of the friendly states of the West. So in US, in UK, if what has been done to me was, if I was a Russian or if I was an Iranian, and if it was my own government doing it, there will be much more uproar against it. Pakistan, because it is a friendly state, so a lot of things don't get to that level. But the form of transnational repression is not just, I'm the what happened to me is the crudest form, but it still suppresses people who are overseas in many other forms. For example, a lot of our people who were active on social media in the West, their family members were kidnapped in Pakistan and they were made to delete their social media accounts. Their IDs were cancelled, their passports were cancelled, their Pakistani IDs were cancelled, or even they were threatened with the prosecution back home, which of course creates a lot of troubles for you, because a lot of financial arrangements depends on you being all clean. And if, for example, there is a media campaign to tarnish your name, it starts from Pakistan, it can also affect your credit score. So there could be so many things, and these things were being done in the UK. I've been working with some human rights organizations and students to record these, and to see and research and find out evidence what particular methods are being used. And it seems that Pakistan is not alone. There are many other friendly states in the United Kingdom, for example, including Saudi Arabia, UAE, Oman, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, who are using these. But lately, Pakistan has been really on top of every game. So these are the tricks they're using, and I think the tricks they're using this because the regime is being they're being hurting because of what the diaspora has been able to do here. Some people would think that if, for example, 200 people standing outside Pakistani High Commission or 10 Downing Street do not matter, then ask the Pakistani military why they are trying to silence these 200 voices, because these voices are actually reaching somewhere and people are starting to ask questions. It's also because when these voices are raised, then the people in the West, especially in the UK or US, they get embarrassed when they invite Pakistani's military ruler into the White House for lunch. I mean, how many other army chiefs in the world got to be invited to the Oval Office for lunch?
Right. Can you talk more about what happened? I don't know, to the extent that you can, about what happened to your brother, and how this is kind of, I guess, an example of what you're talking about in terms of the transnational persecution and chilling effect.
Well, what happened to my brother was in 2023, and that was the beginning of all the physical attacks against myself. And the aim was to coerce me to go back to Pakistan and testify against Imran. And we see there was a pattern to that, because back then the government thought that the best way is that just get someone who was with Imran and get them to become what we used to call in the old days king's witness, which is the prosecution witness, and then their case is sorted. They tried doing that with me. They kidnapped my brother in May of 2023. About 30 men, all dressed in paramilitary uniform, came to my house, took him away. And the next morning, the authorities refused acknowledging that fact. And they said, we don't know who got him. He must have been kidnapped. I mean, luckily, we were able to have, because they also took the CCTV cameras of the whole neighborhood. So knowing that we will not have any evidence, but we were able to have one video recording of him being taken by armed people. And at that point, and that video was produced 5 days later in High Court in Islamabad. And at that time, the authorities came up with the excuse that these were some abductors who were dressed as the local authority, but not the real one. So they came up with all the excuses, but my brother was kept for almost 100 days. I was living in the UK, and thankfully, because end of the day, I'm a lawyer. So I actually walked into police station here and I said, my brother has been kidnapped and I'm being blackmailed by Pakistani ISI. And this is how a legal case started here in the UK, because there is law in UK that if you are a resident of UK or citizen of UK, I think the law is same in the US as well. And if someone blackmails you, that gives jurisdiction to that local authority. So I produced a 30-page memo for the police saying, you have jurisdiction, you can't refuse it. And of course, they agreed they have jurisdiction. And a lot of background work was done on that. And then after 100 days, my brother was let go off. But the approach during those 100 days was that I was sent messages to return and testify against Imran. I didn't. I said I will not falsely testify against anyone, be it Imran. But not everyone was lucky. The principal secretary of Imran Khan His name is Azam Khan. He was in Pakistan. He was kidnapped. He was missing for almost 45 days. His family filed a habeas petition in Islamabad High Court. But after 45 days, he himself walks. I mean, this is another crazy story that we hear. They say that he himself walks, but basically he was taken by the Federal Investigating Agency, the parallel of FBI, before a magistrate, and where he gave a testimony against Imran Khan. And what became of that testimony? Imran Khan was, convicted in that case, and then later on he was acquitted of that case after a year. But you just see the pattern that how the kidnapping of a family member is used to blackmail people to testify against you.
And speaking, oh, sorry, keep going.
No, I'm just saying this is a general trend. These are some specific cases, but for example, there are people here. There is there's a TikToker who lives in Britain. His name is, I think, Omar Raj. His brother was kidnapped, or his father was kidnapped, and he was made to delete his social media account, which he did, but he recorded all that, and then later on he exposed them. So you see, there there's similarity of the stories about so many cases here.
Right. And speaking of kidnapping, I want to know your thoughts on, I guess, as someone who's a human rights lawyer, the state of human rights law or international humanitarian law, international law in itself. How has it been challenged by what is happening in Gaza, and also what we're seeing right now, literally as we speak, in Venezuela?
I think the state of international law has been in question since the invasion of Iraq, because that's what we saw, that how the UN Security Council was lied to, and that was an excuse. But I would call it now, if you see what's happening right now, those were good times. At least back then they actually went through the trouble of lying. I mean, this time there's no lying.
Pandered, right? They pandered, at least, yeah.
I mean, this is pandered. I mean, even what happened in Venezuela. I mean, no one likes Maduro, but hang on a second. You cannot, if it's a, by your own standards of either international law or domestic law, he is the president of a country, and you cannot just go invade with Delta Force and just get him out and produce him in New York courts by DEA. So I mean, this is a very dangerous trend, Katie. I mean, this is what I mean. I talk about this on my show as well. Like in Pakistan, for example, India has similar cases against Pakistani leaders, and Pakistan has similar accusations against Afghan leaders. And just imagine if everyone starts, following this suit, you will have a world war starting soon, because every country. I mean, look at, U.S. The Russian president house was attacked. He blames the Ukrainian president behind it. Now just imagine if either side goes for the other president and they kidnap them and they take them to court in their own country. So this is a mad world. The whole idea after the Second World War, how the UN was built, how the international law has been developed, those principles were framed to avoid this sort of disaster. And I think by moving away from those principles, we are just pushing, we're testing patience of many countries, we're testing the system in itself. I think we have lost whatever it was as international law, because international law, unfortunately, because there is no independent forum where these issues can be contested justly. So I think in what's happening in today's unipolar world, international law is the casualty of that, and I don't think there is any international humanitarian law left.
Yeah, it is pretty disturbing, and yeah, it is. I mean, I interviewed Vijay Prashad the other day, and we had a little bit of a debate about how much of a departure this is. And I mean, I think that it's a bit more masks off than it has been traditionally, right? Like, as you pointed out, they really tried with Bush to talk about WMDs in Iraq. Here, they're just talking about oil, kind of out in the open.
Yep. I mean, just it's not even a week. It's 3 days later, and President Trump is announcing 50 million barrels of oil.
Right.
And I mean, the joke of it is that American companies will buy and they will give me the money, and then I will decide how I spend it on Venezuelan people. So, for example, if I want to say Venezuelan, I don't care what you like, I'm going to feed you McDonald's. It's that.
Right. Wow. Yeah. And anything else that you want to make sure people understand about Imran Khan and kind of his politics? I think people sometimes struggle with how to classify his politics. And maybe maybe we don't need to classify people's politics, but populist, leftist, nationalist.
I think for the Western world, there are two things to understand. One is that it does not matter. You rightly said what his politics is, as long as he's elected by people.
Right.
This is how the democracy works. You must invest in a free democratic Pakistan, and then let people decide who it is, because the lifespan of a politician is 4 to 5 years. Whatever the system is, if he doesn't perform, if he doesn't deliver, people elect a new person. But if you go on cherry picking, saying no, this person actually, we like this person more, then what you're doing is you are undermining the whole process of democracy. And this is how the world which is not West becomes anti-West. So the thoughts, if the US, for example, cares about that, what people think or what other countries think about US, then they should invest more in more democratic values, and invest less in saying, oh, we don't like this person, we will change the regime either by letting the army chief deal with it, or we will send our own Delta Force. But to make few things clear about Imran Khan, he's a very progressive man. He's you see, there is no set system. I mean, there's no left and right. In few things, Imran Khan is very conservative, but in few things he's very liberal. For example, his financial policy, he believes in maximization of wealth, but he also believes in equal distribution of wealth. If you look at 3.5 years of his government, he really favored big businesses to earn profit, but he also stresses on distribution of wealth. So he started this program, Ehsas, which is a social welfare program where the government spends a lot more money. He is the only person in Pakistan history who was able to introduce the health card, the national health insurance, where the government contributes, and then you take the hospitals from government sector into private sector, and it's the insurance industry which is footing the bill. And I've been part and parcel of that process, and the practicality of it was so interesting, because once we were looking into how much it's going to cost for the government to give the universal health insurance to all people in, for example, the province of Punjab. And when we were doing the figures, it turned out it takes less than building a new motorway. And then the question was, do you need another motorway for your fancy cars, or do you need health insurance for the poor, that they can be treated when they need it? And the choice was very obvious. And Imran went for the health insurance and not for the motorway. So today, if people ask, what did you do in those 3.5 years? He gave free medical cover to every citizen of Punjab, the largest province, 140 million plus people. But yes, he did not make any motorways.
Right. And have you been in touch with him? What kind of communication have you been able to have with him, or not able to have with him?
Well, since he's in prison, I mean, his children don't get to speak. His sons don't get to speak for almost 6 months. So the last I heard was a day before he was arrested, and the last thing he said to me was to basically start your YouTube channel. And
Right.
I always opposed it, and I said, well, that's not for me. But now this is the thing I love most.
Wow.
And probably I got beaten for. So.
Beaten for, yeah. And going back to the question of regime change, do you consider what happened to Imran Khan to be regime change? And what was the role of the West to the extent that there was one, which is a very debated topic?
I mean, Katie, I'm a born and bred lawyer, so my mind actually works as on evidence. And if you look at the evidence, that evidence is quite clear. Intercept and Dropsite have done a lot of stories. Those memos are, all out there. But all I would say, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't think that US just went and say, we want to change the regime. Honestly and very bluntly, I think US does not care about Pakistan that much, because in the broader world spectrum, Pakistan is a very small element, and the interest of US is elsewhere, not in that region that much. So there is no need to overplay our own importance. But how it worked was, it's pretty clear. The army chief of that time, General Wajwa, wanted to change the regime. He basically set up this whole system where he hired a bunch of lobbyists to lobby with people in the State Department and the White House, and to get their kind of a nod after really pressing this fact to them that Imran Khan is some sort of Putin praiser, and he's siding with Russia and China, and of course, Imran did not have that sort of a personal relation with the US side to um, to clarify all those things. And I think that what became the reason for the nod. I think that nod came from the US State Department, maybe on a very low level of the State Department officials, but the real deal was done in Pakistan by Pakistani military and General Bajwa.
Great. And let's see, any other comments you want to make about your work as on defending drone strike victims? Because that is something, a lot of people like to think Obama was great on human rights, and then Bush was terrible, Obama was great, Trump was terrible, Biden was great, Trump is terrible. How does your work complicate that narrative?
Well, from a Pakistani perspective, they were no different. They all were same. It's just that Obama chose something which was, working for his own politics. So Obama wanted to pull out of Afghanistan. Obama wanted to pull out of larger military operations. So what he gave in return to American establishment was drones. So he gave them a free hand with drones. He put less checks on it. But I think with time, we were able to establish that free hand led to a lot of civilian deaths. And this is how we were able to, get the cessation of drone strikes in Pakistan. There was a lot of, lobbying and work done around that. But overall, I think when it comes to, the concerns of people in the areas of Pakistan and Afghanistan, there was hardly any difference between, actually, in a way, Katie, I mean, coming to think of it, the military action at some time was better than the drone strikes, because drone strike was carried out by CIA, which comes under no rules and regulation, whereas the army action, there was a whole set of laws, and there was a whole set of, if there is a civilian harm, and how are you going to deal with the civilian harm. But in drone strikes, it was simply like collateral damage. No one cares, because that was all a gray area, because the whole drone affair back in the day, starting from 2008-9 till 2018, 17-18, it was all a gray area. CIA was operating this kill operation without any real law behind it. It was just a presidential executive order.
Right. And there's that famous, where is that? I just was reminded of in one of Obama's like 10,000 memoirs, he talks about Rahm Emanuel and how he basically advised him like he had to kill people because he was seen as a liberal.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine during his time, the internal memos used to call killing of these civilians as bug splat. So that was the reality. We did a report back in the day, and we called the report bug splat. Wow.
Did you get to know Michael Ratner at all at CCR, or did he pass away before your time?
No, I got to know him, and I worked with him as well. I learned a great deal from him, and he's one of the people who actually encouraged me most to do this work, because I actually accidentally got involved in this work, and then it was Michael Ratner who was great support in terms of CCR, and then Vince Warren, and then Clive Stafford Smith in Britain. So all these people were the one who actually taught me how to do it.
Right. Yeah, that's he was a wonderful man.
Yes, I mean, we spent some time in South Africa together, where we used to go for a retreat where all the human rights lawyers will gather. So there was some great learning from Michael Ratner.
Also, speaking of jurists, I guess, there's been claims that there's been pressure in the against judges in Islamabad's High Court when it comes to Imran Khan. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, Islamabad High Court, I think 6 judges are on record who had been coerced and directly blackmailed and threatened to decide against Imran. And those judges actually reached out to 3 different chief justices in Pakistan, one of those judges have been now thrown out by a fellow judge in a very controversial decision, because if you want to expel a judge from that position, it is a constitutionally protected position, and you can only do so through Supreme Judicial Council. But all that has been changed, and since 27th Amendment, there is no real High Court left or Supreme Court left with real judicial review power, because when you look at Pakistani constitution, how it was framed, it's a very good mix of the American system and the British parliamentary system, and we had a very strong judicial review, where the judiciary could actually review a lot of executive decisions if they were exceeding their constitutional mandate. But now that power has been taken away, and that's what the crux of this whole 27th Amendment is. The government actually has created a new court, which they call Federal Constitutional Court, but they don't get to decide anything. People cannot go there. So if you as a citizen, if you're affected by any executive action, you cannot just go and challenge in the courts as you could in the past. So that whole scenario has been changed. I mean, now forget about an ordinary citizen. Even a list of judges, senior judges, are now petitioners in the courts themselves, crying out for their own protection and saying that the military or the ISI is interfering in their judicial work, and no one is listening, because anyone who would listen will stand with them as petitioners, not or complainants. So that's the state of the affair in Pakistan, and it's just that because you see the force, the brute force. I think the term that is used by the Field Marshal himself in a lot of his public sermons is the brute force. And the brute force that he uses, be it against politicians, judges, journalists, ordinary citizen cannot stand against that. Because end of the day, if you're a politician, you're not a trained commando or an extremist. You're just a politician. All you can do is you can talk, you can convince people, you can contest elections or protest peacefully. There is nothing else that you can do.
Right. And here we, by the way, have an Amnesty International report that came out quite recently, the 5th of December. the 5th of January. Pakistan 27th Constitutional Amendment attacks independence of judiciary. 27th Amendment to the Constitution poses a grave threat to the independence of the judiciary, and the rule of law in Pakistan by creating a federal constitutional court that lacks independence, erodes judges' security of tenure, and insulates the president and head of the naval, armed, and air forces from accountability. Despite its far-reaching consequences, the amendment was steamrolled through parliament with no consultation with civil society and opposition parties. On the day the act became law, 2 senior judges of the Supreme Court resigned in protest. 2 days later, a judge of the Lahore High Court also resigned. So just an example of the international condemnation it's been receiving. And then I wanted to show one. Let's see. This is the Obama. I thought that Rahm Emanuel was involved in this. Maybe not. But he wrote in his. I'll find that part later, but that doesn't really matter. This is the more important part. Let me just share the screen here about what Obama had to say about the basically the drone strike or killing people at weddings, or the various ways that he killed people. This is from his novel, Freudian slip, his memoir, A Promised Land. So he said, in places, and let me just read what Business Insider said. So the first drone strike of Barack Obama's presidency occurred just 3 days after he was sworn into office. The strike would typify Obama's approach to counterterrorism. The Obama administration vastly expanded the U.S. drone program established under former President George W. Bush, using drones for surveillance and targeted killings. In his new book, A Promised Land, Obama reflected on the task of ordering such killings, stating that he, quote, took no joy, end quote, in doing so. Quote, in places like Yemen and Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq, the lives of millions of young men had been warped and stunted by desperation, ignorance, dreams of religious glory, the violence of their surroundings, or the schemes of older men. They were dangerous, these young men, often deliberately and casually cruel. Still, in the aggregate at least, I wanted somehow to save them. Send them to school, give them a trade, drain them of the hate that had been filling their heads, Obama wrote. And yet the world they were part of and the machinery I commanded more often had me killing them instead.
I mean, there you go. I mean, this is a quick fix, right? Um, so, I mean, just because I thought sitting thousands of miles away that these people, they're a bit dangerous. I mean, it's just simply, seeing from the sky, it looks something else to you. But if you do not have the context, that person might be doing something completely different. I mean, there's a great film. I actually often quote people, Minority Report, of Tom Cruise, which basically gives this idea of convicting people on just thoughts. Because someone has a DNA of criminal conduct, or in the future they were going to commit something. So these people are extracted in that film. It's a science fiction, but I think this is the drone experiment was that, because just few CIA analysts, based upon some thread of intelligence, half of which was actually purchased intelligence, bought intelligence that you paid for, so you do not know the quality of that intelligence. And mind you, that's none of that is evidence. Intelligence is very different from evidence. But the American president, a constitutional lawyer at one time, President Obama including, they all thought that is enough to just sign some kill warrants or death warrants of these people, because this is what they do. Because when they actually signed off on a kill, it's an execution. It's an execution where in Pakistan there were three people who were signing off. One was the American ambassador, second was the CIA station chief, and the third person was the CIA's legal officer or legal attaché or whoever it was. But these three people actually used to act as judge, jury, and executioner, and then in the end it would be some CIA man or some young pilot who is sitting far remote in the US, who is just pushing a button with a joystick in his hand. But you do not know, and there's a lot of work that has been done now, how eye in the sky sort of a situation where you see something from the sky, whereas the real context of that is completely different.
Right. And I did find the Rahm Emanuel quote that I was referring to. And I think it's significant because it reveals kind of Obama's transactional politics, despite all the praise he gets. In excerpts carried by Business Insider, Obama claimed that his first chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, was obsessed with keeping track of a list of terrorist targets. Emanuel had, quote, spent enough time in Washington to know that his new liberal president couldn't afford to look soft on terrorism. So there you have it. He kind of blames Rahm Emanuel, but also accepts his framing that it was the right thing to do because he just couldn't politically afford to look soft on terrorism.
But Katie, one thing I must add here is that I do not disagree that they might have kept a list of all the terrorist targets they actually killed in these strikes, but unfortunately they did not care about the civilians which were killed along with, because when we did this study with Stanford University and Columbia, and I think it was NYU as well, one thing that came out of that study was that even when we were gathering how the drone strikes get to be reported in the media, be it international or the local media, killing a militant target was a big news. Killing of civilian was not. It would just go somewhere in the fourth or fifth page of the newspaper, because 5 civilians get killed, tough luck. 1 military target killed, front page news. So of course they were keeping a tab of all the terrorists killed, but they missed out on thousands of civilians that were killed along with, which may have created hundreds of thousands of more militants because their loved one were not given justice.
Right. Yeah. And that's really important. And of course, we see that with Israel also. Like, there's no keeping track of civilian killings. And everyone's a terrorist, according to Israel. There's tons. They always talk about when they kill a militant or a terrorist. They prefer that term. So that's something that we see over there as well.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate reality of the world that we live in.
Yeah. It certainly is. And I want to thank you so much. A fortunate thing is that you came onto the show, and very fortunate to have you and your show. And we will also put a link to your YouTube show. And please do come back, because your analysis is so insightful and astute. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie, and you're welcome to invite me anytime.
Okay, great. Thank you. Have
Thank
a
you.
great night. Okay, we are going to keep the show going, but we're going to take a little break, and Brad is going to read the super chats. Please, if you haven't already, please do like the stream. And then we are going to bring on Hasan Ali, and we're very excited to be talking to a journalist who's going to be joining us actually from Pakistan. So, Brad, take it away with the super.
All right, thank you, Katie. Well, we have a bunch of new members, and just to reiterate, this was very exciting. Before we went live today, we did hit the 400,000 subscriber mark, which is awesome. Thank you so much to everyone, so that we can bring all of these very important stories that you otherwise wouldn't be hearing about to all of these people, you know, from our great guests today and yesterday and all of the other guests that we've had and will be having. But we've got a new member, James Lee. Thank you so much. And Nuamzi, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing anyone's name, a super chat from James Lee. Thanks for covering Pakistan. Katie, Imran Khan must be freed. Absolutely. And super sticker from Farzana Nadim. I'm again sorry if I'm butchering the name. And then new member, Miriam, I believe.
Wow.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Miriam.
Miriam, yeah.
She was wonderful.
Yeah. And
And
don't think that was a condition of her joining. I did not make her become a member to have her on. Yeah.
And also Shahzad, such a knowledgeable, eloquent person, and what he and his family have been going through as well. Yeah, just bravery, and yeah, I can't express enough my appreciation, and I could listen to him for quite some time.
Yeah, he's an excellent speaker.
Yeah.
We are waiting. Our next guest needs a few minutes, so we can also read some other relevant chats. Or, you know, what we can do is I want to look for a little bit of a. I feel like, you know, what's something that we should do is show some Imran Khan, because to kind of familiarize people with him. Let's see if we have anything. The problem is often you could. Well, not the problem is, for me, I don't speak Urdu. So sometimes it's hard to find things in English, although he's very fluent in English. We could play a little clip. Let's see. If anyone is in the chat, has any good English language clips for us to show, please let me know. This is a communal group effort. Or Nate, if you can help us find any of those, that would be great. In the meantime, let's see, any other good inspiring messages. Congrats on the 400K. Thank you. Shahzad Akbar and many others are paying the price for freedom. We got a little mixed messages. Who's Brad? And then more Brad. Who's Brad? I think that meant who, you know, not who's, but HOI space S, space IS, whatever. Okay. Let's see. Katie Halper, great job. That's so great. What great insight. Katie, people keep covering Pakistan. The world needs to know the truth. Oh, no. Katie, please. I was like, they do. Katie, please keep covering Pakistan. The world needs to know this truth. Thank you so much. Okay. And we are actually ready for our next guest. This is very good. Free Imran Khan, free Maduro and his wife. Yeah, free Imran Khan and his wife, and free Maduro and his wife, because both of them are being locked up.
This is nowhere near my best work. So there's that, but the best that I could do in a handful of minutes was regarding the thing that you were speaking about at the very end there, the Minority Report.
Oh.
There is a Minority Report with Imran Khan and Tom Cruise.
Oh, nice. I mean, pretty unflattering. I got to say,
I
don't know how it takes effort to find such an unflattering photo of Imran Khan. I swear to you that Brad is not working for Asim Munir.
No.
Munir, yeah. I'm sure
right,
that I hope I hope Maryam isn't watching, or Alima, or any relatives. By the end of the show, we're gonna have a better image of him.
I will do better. I will do better. Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, thanks, Brad. So so excited to bring on our final guest of this special stream. And guys, if you haven't already liked the stream, please do like it. Again, it's a way to fight back against algorithmic suppression, which we definitely face. And it's also a great way to spread the word about the show. Again, please subscribe by hitting subscribe and pressing the bell. And if you can, we really, really, really appreciate your Patreon support, because we literally couldn't do the show without it. You can go to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Maybe Brad can put the ticker tape thing on the screen. Patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. If you join at the $5 level, $5 a month level, you get extra content, extended interviews. If you can't pull that off, we understand, but you can literally just make the show happen by donating $1 a month. Of course, we prefer the $5 a month, but the $1 a month is totally acceptable, and you get to sleep well knowing that you are helping make this show happen. And again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Here we got this at least going on. And really, you do definitely want to subscribe, because you want to do the free subscribing too, so that you never miss one of these extra podcasts that we're doing. Okay, so we are bringing on our next and final guest. Very excited to bring him on. He is someone who covers civil rights, human rights. He has written for The Nation, and he's actually based in Pakistan. He's joining us right now from Pakistan. And apologies, it's so late there. And thank you, given that it's so late there. His reporting, as I said, focuses on civil rights, freedom of speech, and the intersection of culture and political activism. He's been a contributor to The Nation. He's written for Time and Vanity Fair. He's worked as a journalist on 3 different continents. And we are going to hear what he has to say about, also, speaking of his internationalism, he holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Oxford and a master's degree from Columbia University in the city of New York. So let us bring on this very international man of, if not mystery, journalism, Hasan Ali. Hi, Hasan. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks. That was the most intriguing way someone has introduced me for quite some time. So I like to be known as an international man of mystery. There's something there's a bit of panache about it. So thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of yours, Katie.
Oh, thank you. And shout out to the great, although he hates getting an attention, but I'm going to give a shout out to the great Shuja Haider for reminding me, because I've read your work before, but he saw that I was covering Pakistan, and he was very excited at the prospect of having you on. You, of course, have covered this for The Nation, where the great Shuja Haider is an editor. And Shuja, if you're watching, hello. And if not, it's more likely that Shuja's relatives will be watching. Not that Shuja's not a fan, but I happen to know some of his relatives like this show. So hi to the Haider family if you're watching.
This is a great man. He's my longtime editor at The Nation. So very good guy.
Yeah, and very funny also.
Absolutely.
Really great sense of humor.
Absolutely.
So give us a sense, Hasan, of what is happening right now, like as we speak. What is the atmosphere like in Pakistan? What is happening on the ground?
Okay. So there's no systematic way of answering that question. Sure. Obviously, it's all anecdotal, right? So I can only really share my impressions with you. So apologies if this isn't, like 100% accurate. I can only give you my sense.
Well, after this, we're going to check with every Pakistani citizen to see how you did. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Well, look, if you'd asked me this question a year ago, I would have described the atmosphere in Pakistan as cataclysmic. That's the word I would have used. In November 2024, Imran Khan supporters basically launched a protest, which was called the Do or Die protest, in which they were, essentially demanding his release from prison. And they protested in downtown Islamabad. and were shot at by their own security forces, who used live ammunition and killed a bunch of people and injured many others. Now, the government denies that this happened, but we've seen some pretty credible reporting that convinces me anyway. There's reasonable reporting that state officials were trying to falsify medical records, for instance, were going to the hospitals and trying to confiscate records of patients that had been brought in, many who had suffered from gunshot wounds. So this was the atmosphere about 13, 14 months ago, right? Just about as bad as it can get. But something changed. Something changed on the ground, which is that in May, there was a terrorist attack in Indian-occupied or Indian-administered Kashmir, and the Modi government in India decided to blame Pakistan without providing robust enough evidence. Okay, so I don't know who was behind that terrorist attack, but the evidence that the Modi government provided that it was Pakistan was flimsy at best. That's all I'll say about that. Okay, now what essentially happened was that the Indian government entered what's called a commitment trap, as in, by blaming Pakistan, they created a media frenzy in which, they had to then militarily respond, okay? And analysts in India, really credible analysts in India, were saying things like, this is a great time to attack Pakistan because a vast chasm has opened up between the military establishment and the public, because Imran Khan has been treated appallingly and the people are not happy about it. So this is the best time to attack Pakistan. And Modi did. This was a catastrophic misreading of the Pakistani national ethos and of Pakistani identity. It was the dumbest thing you could have done, okay? Because the contract that the Pakistan army has always had with the people of Pakistan is essentially this. We are the only institution that's standing between you and annexation by your Indian neighbors, okay? We're the ones who are protecting you, and these guys, if they had their own way and if it wasn't for us, would run over you. And what essentially happened was the Indians attacked Pakistan. They attacked a number of cities in Pakistan, killed at least 30 civilians, and Pakistan responded in a way that surprised the Indians, okay? Pakistan essentially, don't take my word for it, experts who cover this, like independent experts say that Pakistan emerged from that conflict victorious. That gave the Pakistan army a credibility boost. So you see how that works, right? You've got this really, really unpopular institution, and it's basically been given like a present dropped into its lap. That's essentially what happened. So from then on, I think you had Dr. Mohit Pirzada on your program. Mm-hmm. He was talking about how the protest movement or the agitation movement in support of Imran Khan has sort of dwindled. Like the numbers behind it are not as big as there used to be. And so we have this strange situation on the ground right now where Imran Khan is the most popular politician in the country. If there were an election right now, and a free and fair election, I have to add, he would win it. I'm absolutely convinced. But the agitation movement against the state has lost a lot of steam because essentially the military has been able to consolidate power because of how they were able to respond to the Indian attack in May. And best evidence for this is that the chief of Pakistan's army, Asim Munir, was able to become a field marshal. He was a general before, so he was elevated to field marshal, and he's now also become the chief of defense forces. So, so in other words, after the latest constitutional amendment, he now no longer only controls the army, he also controls the Air Force and the Navy. So he's gotten a boost. Pakistan has sort of stabilized on the ground, and the Khan agitation movement has lost some of its steam would be my assessment of things. But this is anecdotal, right? I can't give you a systematic answer because obviously it's just what I'm watching on the ground. But that would be my answer.
Okay. I also want to ask you about the protest movements the protests that you covered and actually were attacked at. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this happened on May the 9th, 2023. So this was a year and a month after Imran Khan had been removed from office in a vote of no confidence, which, by the way, my reporting indicates was completely backed by the then Chief of Army Staff, General Qamar Javed Bajwa. What had essentially happened was Imran Khan, when he left office, he went on this large-scale speaking tour. So he went around the nation, essentially accusing the military of engineering his ouster in conjunction with the American intelligence community. He also, in this time, he was also shot at one of his rallies, and he blamed an army officer for being behind an assassination attempt on him. The police went to arrest him at his house in connection with the Al Qadir Trust case, which you've just spoken about with Barrister Akbar. And Imran Khan's supporters basically formed like a wall between him and law enforcement, essentially didn't allow him to be arrested, right? So what happened was, there was one occasion, on May 9, 2023, Imran Khan had gone for a hearing at the Islamabad High Court, and he was essentially picked up by the Pakistan Rangers, which is a paramilitary force that is under the control of the army. Okay, and what happened right after that was that protesters and Imran Khan supporters came out onto the streets. Some of these protests were violent, okay? Not all of them, of course, but some of them were violent. I can only tell you what I saw with my own eyes. I went to cover the protests. The protesters attacked a number of military installations in the country, one of which was the command center of the Pakistan Army, just called General Headquarters. Now, by the time I arrived there, it was about 7 o'clock in the evening. Bear in mind, all the roads were blocked, right? So you had to really get there on foot. By the time I arrived there, what I saw was the police were shelling, as in using tear gas to disperse the protesters, and Imran Khan supporters were throwing bricks and stones and other forms of debris towards law enforcement. So that's what I saw. But I was only there for something like 5 or 6 minutes before I was picked up, right? And they were not picking me up because I was a journalist. Frankly, they didn't give a damn. Actually, these were not particularly sophisticated people, but, they were not picking me up because they thought I was a journalist, I don't think. Okay. I think what they thought was, the guy who beat me up, who started beating me up, accused me of sort of chanting slogans in support of Imran Khan, as if that's a crime, right? And so what they basically did was, they started beating me up and threw me into a Jeep along with 7 other people, all of whom were actually PTI protesters. And so they beat us up, using sticks and metal rods, they beat us up outside on the road, on the street, as it were. And they chucked us into a police Jeep and beat us up all the way, from there, while we were driving. None of us really knew where we were going. In fact, they told us to sit on the ground as opposed to on the actual seat. So we were on the floor. So they beat us up all the way to the police station. And this is what's really nefarious about what happened. When you get arrested, it's never happened to me, so I can only assume, but when you get arrested, typically what is supposed to happen is you get charged with a crime and put in jail, right? That's not what happened to me. And that's not what happened to the people I was being taken with. What happened instead was we got taken to the second floor of the police station into a room that they usually reserve for on-duty policemen who are staying overnight, right? Guys who are on call. And they just locked us up there under the care of a custodian, and they didn't charge us with anything. And they basically, having confiscated all our belongings, essentially disappeared us. Does that make sense? So it was an abduction where we went missing, like as in, I know this because when my parents turned up to pick me up at the station, they denied all knowledge. They were like, I have no idea who this person is that you're speaking about. We didn't pick anyone up. We haven't arrested anyone. Problem is that when they had arrested or when they picked me up, I had a second phone, like a burner, which is about this small, and I'd sort of hidden it in my sock, okay, and was able to send a couple of text messages to my parents, basically saying, oh, well, I'm at this police station, and, they will deny that I'm here, but, I'm here on the second floor.
Wow.
Once they found out, however, that I was a journalist, you see, I've been covering Pakistan for several years now, okay? So there were plenty of members of the government who actually had been interviewed by me, and they were just like, oh, this is going to be bad, So I was released, okay, after being in lockup for, I guess, 4 or 5, 6 hours. I can't actually, it's a bit blurry, I can't remember it that well. I remember distinctly that my hands looked like eggplants, from the beating that I'd taken, it's exactly that color, yeah. But you actually don't feel the pain at the time, that comes later, you wake up in the middle of the night, when the adrenaline is worn off, and then you realize what's really happened to you. But in those 5 or 6 hours that I was in the lockup, I got actually to talk to the protesters who were Imran Khan activists, who were with me. And these were young people who'd been really enthused by Imran Khan's message, and they were essentially coming out to demand his release. And they were disappointed. That's what I remember them saying. They were basically like, what they thought they were going to do is apply so much street pressure that it was going to force the authorities essentially to release Imran Khan. They were essentially going to prevail on the state. But in fact, the numbers weren't large enough to do that. And this gave the military the pretense or the excuse to crack down massively against Imran Khan and his party, okay? So they basically painted it as a sort of January the 6th type situation where the state's writ had been challenged, where, the equivalent of the Pentagon had been attacked, and, it was, all bets were off, So there's something called geofencing, which is basically the law enforcement know all of the mobile phones that are in a given area at a given point in time, right? And they pretty much picked up every person whose phone number was in that area. They didn't ask questions, right? So they asked questions later. They picked everyone up, and they went after Imran Khan's party like hell for leather, no compromises. Pretty much every single person in that party was picked up within the next 2 or 3 days. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about what happened the next morning, right? Having spent 5 or 6 hours, I would say, with these PTI activists, as I was leaving, as I was being released, I basically promised them that I would come the next day with a lawyer. Okay, so I said, look, not really one of you guys, I don't support Imran Khan and never have. However, I will come with legal counsel to get you guys released because your rights are being abused, okay? You can't just be disappeared without charge. So I'm going to turn up tomorrow with a lawyer, and I did. And when the lawyer came to the police station, guess what the same officer on duty told her? Oh, we haven't picked anyone up. There's no one here, right? And there's no one here. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I mean, you can go and look in the jails. There's no one here, because the jails are on the ground floor, right? Like there's one person there. We haven't picked anyone up. And then I turned up, and he was like, "Oh man, haven't you had enough?" Like, I mean, why are you here again? Like, I mean, we thought we'd gotten rid of you last night. You got away with, you ended up getting away with it. Like, you're fine. You went home. Why are you here again?
Right.
And I was like, they're up there. They're all up there. And you know what they did? The police locked us up in a room, got the prisoners who were up there, and had them transported to another facility, and then opened the doors and let us out.
Wow.
Okay, so that's what happened on that day. I mean, you were asking me about that particular day. Honestly, I think I got off pretty easy. Consider, all things considered, if I hadn't had that tiny phone in my sock, I would have been in there for 4 or 5 months, I'm sure.
Wow.
But that's what happened. That's what I remember of that day.
How much does it matter? Sorry that you experienced that, first of all, but how much does it matter that you were a journalist for foreign outlets and that you have, I don't know how to say this without sounding problematic, but given, like
No, I understand what you're asking me.
Yeah, and you speak English with like a British accent, right? Like
That, I mean, I think it was instrumental. But more because I think what got me out were two things. One, that I had visibility with the current government, so I'd interviewed them on a number of occasions. Members, like fairly senior members in that government, in the government at the time. That was one part of it. The second part of it, obviously, was that I was working for foreign outlets. And then the third part of it was that my own reporting was quite critical of Imran Khan, right?
Yeah.
So if you took maybe the last bit away, if my reporting had been, say, I mean, there are plenty of people who speak English, with posh accents, who are supportive of Imran Khan, who might not have, who might not have fared so well. But because I was essentially a critic of Imran Khan, it just became very clear to anyone that that they'd made a mistake, that that this was not supposed to happen.
Right.
Interestingly enough, and of course they're afraid of the blowback, right? Like what's going to happen if you pick up a journalist who writes for the foreign press and brutalize him and abduct him, and he sees all this stuff? Well, he's going to write a piece about it, isn't he? So and that doesn't go down well, and people will read that piece in America and the UK and all of these places. But the one thing that I still haven't figured out about that entire episode is why there were so few local journalists there. Okay. Pakistan is one of the most vibrant media environments in the world. There are some, I mean, how many cable news channels does the US have? I mean, back in my day when I used to live there were 4, 5? Pakistan has like 100, there are more journalists in Pakistan than anywhere I've ever lived, and I've been around. And yet, there were very few people from local media there, which makes me think they'd been tipped off. Like they'd been told, this is a no-go zone. Don't turn up here because the operation that's going to happen here is, is going to be a brutal one. Obviously, I was not given the memo, although I would have turned up anyway.
Are they also just afraid? I mean, could they predict the repression? In other words, even without, I'm not challenging what you said, but is there something to that possibility also, that they just knew that there would be a crackdown? So out of self-interest?
I guess so. As I say, it's a mystery to me, right? Like, I mean, I don't really know, but I distinctly remember, because we all know each other, right? Like, I mean, we cover the assembly together, like we're milling around the Supreme Court. I didn't recognize anyone there. Like the only people I saw there were law enforcement and activists, and PTI supporters, and and there were no other journalists that I can remember. And I don't know why that is, because I had gone there primarily because what we were watching on social media made it seem like there was some kind of revolution going on, right? And where do you want to be when something like that's happening? You're going to be on the spot, right? But I didn't see anyone there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure there were people there, but I mean, I didn't see anyone.
Right.
So that's what I remember from that day.
Well, Hasan, you are someone who, as you've said multiple times during this interview, you are critical of Khan, and you've been critical of him. You're also very clearly opposed to his treatment. I mean, those things are not a contradiction, right? Talk about why you're critical of him, what your criticisms of him have been, and also why you maintain that, despite whatever criticisms, he was the legitimately elected prime minister, and why you oppose his treatment.
Yeah, so in a sense, it doesn't really matter what I think, right, Katie? Because at the end of the day, this is the legitimate prime minister of Pakistan. So I may not like him and I may not be his supporter, but he won the election in 2024. That much is abundantly clear. And he would be the prime minister right now, were it not for the fact that the results were changed. Okay, that's abundantly clear to me. So that's the first part. The second thing that I have to say is, what is happening to the man is appalling, and what is happening to members of his party is utterly appalling. Okay, can I just give you like a small example?
Yeah, of
right?
course.
One of his information secretaries, a guy called Ahmed Janjua, wonderful gentleman, the sort of man that if you heard, Katie, that he had swatted a fly, you'd be like, oh, that doesn't seem like him. He was arrested, and in the charge sheet that they wrote against him, they accused him of being in possession of a near industrial quantity of explosives, as if this was Agamemnon about to attack windy Troy. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, this sort of stuff is just appalling. You're just kind of like, what is going on? I mean, so there's that part. There are other members there are other members of his party who've been forced to defect. I mean, you heard Shahzad Akbar's story, about what happened to his family members. And then
to him, he had acid thrown in his face. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And then there's the Imran Khan story as well, what's happening to him. I mean, my latest information, and this may be wrong, but what sources have told me is that he is in a death cell. He's in a room that's bitterly cold. There's no bed. There's in fact a concrete slab in lieu of a bed. This man's 73 years old, and he was the former prime minister of Pakistan. So, the guy deserves some respect. In fact, a hardened criminal deserves more respect, in the way that they're incarcerated. So what's happening to the guy is utterly appalling. What's happening to his party is utterly appalling. And I do believe, from everything that I've seen, that he is the legitimate prime minister of Pakistan. Okay, so these are the things that I have to just put out there, just as like kind of a caveat, right? I've never been a fan. Okay, and I've not been a fan of Imran Khan or his movement, because to me, it's A, it's messianic, and B, it's ahistorical. So, his supporters want you to believe that what is happening right now is somehow outside of history, that it's unprecedented. And when people have that kind of analysis, what they essentially conclude is that Pakistan's problems are personnel problems, not system problems. In other words, that if you could just take the current dispensation out and put Imran Khan and his supporters in there, everything would be fine. But this is not the case, okay? It's the system in Pakistan that's broken. And this is just the latest incarnation of that system. Let me lay it out for you. Let me just tell you a little bit about my own personal history, okay? Pakistan's about 78 years old, okay? It gained its independence in August 1947. When my grandfather was in his 20s, about 500 yards from where I'm sitting right now, he watched the first prime minister of Pakistan get assassinated, okay? About 500 yards from where I'm sitting right now. The person who was conducting an inquiry into it died mysteriously in a plane crash, and all his papers also got incinerated. So we never found out who did it. We never really found out what happened, okay? When my mother was in her 20s, she saw the first populist, she heard that the first populist prime minister of this country had been hanged for a crime he probably didn't commit, okay? One of the justices who condemned him to death admitted on record that he'd issued the judgment because of pressure from the military establishment. When I was 17 years old, I was sitting right here from where I'm speaking to you, and there was this massive flash of orange light, and all the windows in my house shattered, smashed to smithereens. And what had happened was that the first female prime minister of Pakistan had been murdered on my doorstep. There were bits of brain and human fingers on my front lawn, okay?
Benazir Bhutto you're talking about.
That's right, yeah. She died about 500 yards from where I'm sitting right now. People were jumping, they were hurtling my wall, and there were injured people, like really, injured people there. I mean, my parents are physicians, so they went and, sort of treated them. But on my front lawn, there were human fingers and bits of brain. I remember that as a 17-year-old, okay? The last 4 prime ministers of Pakistan, including Imran Khan, have all gone to prison. The last 4, okay? The guy who's currently prime minister went to jail a couple of times. Imran Khan is in jail as we speak. The guy who preceded Imran Khan, a guy called Shahzad Akbar, went to jail twice. And the guy who preceded Shahzad Akbar, Nawaz Sharif, went to jail a couple of times. 3 of these 4 people were in jail when guess who was prime minister? Imran Khan. What did he say about it? Not very far from where you are right now, he addressed a convention of overseas Pakistanis. And he took credit for it. He gloated about it. He said, I put him there. And then he said, about Mr. Abbas, he said, I put him there. Then about Nawaz Sharif, he said, and when I go back to Pakistan, when I leave the US and go back to Pakistan, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure his air conditioner is removed from his cell because the guy really ought to be suffering. Okay? So, as far as I'm concerned, Imran Khan was the beneficiary of a cruel, repressive, and tyrannical system. And like virtually every other prime minister in my lifetime, he fell foul of that system and then became a victim of that system. Now, that is not to say that what is happening to him is right. It's utterly appalling, okay? And he ought to be the prime minister right now. But this is not a straightforward story. This is not a straight. And the one thing I'm really pleased about while watching your show, so I listened to Barrister Akbar speaking. I did get the sense that there had been some soul searching about this, about their time in office and what that was like. He said some very interesting things about how corruption was the narrative that the Pakistan army wanted to, use against politicians to undermine them. Well, they're currently using it against Imran Khan, right? And remember, they use politicians against other politicians by using this corruption framework as well. We've seen this throughout Pakistan's history. Nawaz Sharif used it against Benazir Bhutto. Imran Khan used it against Nawaz Sharif. This keeps happening again and again and again. So what's happening in Pakistan is a systems problem, okay? It is the system that's broken and oppressive. This is not a personnel issue. And I will make a small prediction here. I can't read the future, but I can tell you what history tells us, Katie. And that is that protracted periods of military rule, repressive as they are, don't last forever. Okay, generally they last from somewhere between 8 and 10 years. That's what history tells us. And when they end, the same people who are the principal victims of those regimes tend to come back into power. Now, Imran Khan is 73 years old, but I predict that if he lives long enough, he will be Prime Minister of Pakistan again. And what I want to see, and what I'm very interested in finding out, is what he'll do. Because this is another thing. This is that the empire always strikes back, right? So the military establishment will take a back seat eventually, but then the same problems will start emerging again. They'll use whoever is in power will become incredibly vindictive, will start throwing people in jail. I mean, 5 years ago, everyone who was in the current government was in prison, and everyone you've been speaking to was in power, right? So this is this strange kind of musical chairs that keeps happening in this country, and it's got to stop, and it will only stop when politicians stop allowing themselves to be used by that one institution that wants you to believe that they're all corrupt, that they're all horrible, that they're the only ones who are safeguarding the country's future. So that's my view on Imran Khan and on the recent history of Pakistan.
So, okay, a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
One is there any sense that he has changed or learned from this? And to the extent that you're critical of him, are there any other potential leaders that you like? What are your thoughts on his party? Because I understand you're making kind of a structural critique and systemic critique. But I'm curious what your thoughts on the actual party are, and also if he has evolved at all.
So about a month before he went to jail, he actually gave me an interview. It was one of the last interviews he gave to The Nation magazine just before he was put in jail. And he seemed to have learned some things. It has to be said. This is a guy who spent 3 out of the 4 years that he was in office basically extolling the virtues of the military. He described the guy who eventually, the irony of ironies is, he described the guy who eventually removed him as the most democratic army chief in Pakistan's history. They used to call it the hybrid regime, where power is shared between Imran Khan and the military. And they're going, very much like the current dispensation, where they're going in the same direction, except it never works in the long run, okay? The problems in the system don't allow it to persist in that way. At some point, they fall out, because the generals who are in charge want power, but they don't want accountability. So what they need is a politician to shoulder the burden of their decisions, okay? And that doesn't work because, who wants accountability without real power? No one, except maybe the current prime minister who's happy to be a stooge, right? But, eventually that relationship always breaks down. So I did, when I was speaking to him, just before he was arrested, get the sense that he had learned that, that the military had essentially used him. I got that sense. Mm-hmm. But whether or not, this is something that will be actionable, or whether or not we will fall back into the same sort of circle of repression, I don't know. Bear in mind that the current government was speaking against the military as well. They were accusing the military of having brought Imran Khan into power. Today, Nawaz Sharif gave this massive speech in Gujranwala, where he basically accused the chief of the army staff and the head of the ISI of undermining democracy. And then they ended up undermining democracy themselves by forming a government after an election that they clearly did not win, okay? So will this happen again? Who knows? Generally, this is what happens, today's bad guys become tomorrow's good guys because, there's a change in the military and, they're co-opted again. Who knows? I have no idea. As far as his party is concerned, I've never really felt that it was a political party. It has always seemed to me to be more of a religious movement, sort of centered around this one figure of Imran Khan, who is, almost messianic in the way that he perceives the problems of Pakistan. His language is very religious, like, I mean, he wants, this is like a cornerstone of his sort of political philosophy, is this idea that he wants to bring Islamic welfarism back, and he's very, very, very keen on using religious language to paint himself as some kind of savior of a depraved and broken civilization that's, suffering from moral turpitude and decay and needs to somehow undergo a rejuvenescence, and that he's the only person who can do it. So I've never really thought of them as a political party. And right now, they aren't really one, because most of the people who belong to it have been forced to defect anyway. So right now, the actual political apparatus is in tatters.
Mm-hmm. And is there?
Oh, sorry. And then there was the third part of your question, which is, do I like anyone else?
Right.
And the answer is absolutely not. Okay. There's nothing to like about these guys. What can you like about people who didn't win an election and then, chose to govern the country anyway? If you had any self-respect, would you do that? Absolutely not. So no, in the last election, I abstained. In the next election, I might vote for PTI just because I think they, after all that they've suffered, they maybe deserve another crack at it, to see if they've changed. Like, you have to put your faith in someone to break the cycle, to change the system. But I'm ambivalent.
And what about, I mean, obviously I've had people on on the show who are very complimentary and supportive of him. And they get I get, some pushback from then in response to them. Right now, you're getting pushback, obviously, as someone who's critical of it. I'm wondering if you have any positive things to say about his policies. Like, I understand your structural critique, but do you think he did things that were good for the people of Pakistan?
The guy didn't have that much power to begin with. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know is, do you know how his this will illustrate the point for you. It's an anecdote, but this will illustrate the point for you. You know how he and the current head of the Pakistan military despise one another, right? Like, you've heard about this history. Do you know how that started? Okay, so I'll tell you from my own reporting how that started, and then you'll understand what I mean by when I say that he didn't have that much power. About less than a year after Imran Khan became Prime Minister, he went on this landmark visit to Iran. He took plenty of members of his cabinet there, and this was supposed to be a game-changing visit. Iran is Pakistan's neighbor. It's a Muslim country. It's a country with which Pakistan has lots of cultural and linguistic affinities, and yet the two countries have never been particularly close. Okay, Pakistan accuses Iran of fomenting terror against Pakistan. Iran accuses Pakistan of doing the same. So both countries accuse each other of doing that, right? Imran Khan wanted to go to Iran, and he wanted to essentially change that relationship. And he went there with something like 11 or 12 agreements that he wanted the Iranians to sign, collaboration agreements on a whole number of issues, from health to military to all sorts of things, economic cooperation. At the time, the head of the ISI, which is the equivalent of the Pakistani CIA, was General Asim Munir, who is now the field marshal. Right. He arrived on a separate plane. And over the course of the 2-day visit, Imran Khan became convinced that Asim Munir was trying to scuttle the visit, that he was trying to ensure that all of these agreements that he wanted as the Prime Minister of Pakistan to institute would get scuttled because it wasn't in Pakistan's interest, according to the military, who have always held foreign policy like this in the grip of their hands. Okay? And that's where they fell out initially. So that's what I'm saying, like, the military economically also tries to dominate the arena. I mean, Imran Khan's finance minister was removed and replaced by a military guy. Okay, so that economic policy was also being directed by general headquarters. This was not, I mean, the thing about hybrid regimes is it's actually the military that calls the shots, and the prime minister is basically just the accountable one. The Sehat card is an interesting one for me. I've heard anecdotally, the Sehat card is the health card, right? The universal health care. That's interesting to me. I've always sort of liked the idea of universal health care. And I have pretty good anecdotal evidence that people did use it and did benefit from it. But I also have a lot of anecdotal evidence of people who weren't able to use it, who were turned away. And I have to ask the question simply, Pakistan is a country where 3.5% to 4% of the population pays income tax. That's it. And, we don't have the money to service our own debt. Like, where is the money coming from? Was this actually, like a long-term initiative that was going to work? It's been sort of semi-discontinued now, at least in Punjab. But the idea, at least, was appealing to me. I don't know whether the details bore out that it worked in the long run, because I've seen evidence on both sides. But that was an idea that I liked. Beyond that, I don't really think Imran Khan was able to do much during his time in office. His corruption crusade ended up doing very little. Mirza Shahzad Akbar pretty much admitted it himself. On the foreign policy front, much is made about the sort of regime change operation. Actually, Pakistan has more important relationships than the Pakistan-US one. The China-Pakistan relationship is more important, and the Saudi-Pakistan relationship is more important. Both of them disliked him. The Chinese thought that he was essentially scuttling the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which was part of the One Belt, One Road initiative. In fact, I actually went to the One Belt, One Road initiative headquarters in Balochistan, and the Chinese officials there were really uncomplimentary about him. They were basically just like, this is something that he's just, he's not interested in, doesn't seem to be doing a particularly good job. So no, I have to be honest with you, I didn't think his time in office was a success at all. I didn't think it was a success in the foreign policy realm. I don't think Pakistan's economy did particularly well. And I don't think his corruption crusade worked. The Sehat card, the health card, is the one thing where, at least on the face of things, I know people who benefited. And I'm really glad that they did, because, Mr. Akbar is absolutely right. What's more important, motorways or healthcare for poor people? And I would say it's always healthcare for poor people. But that period, I remember that period as tyrannical and, unpleasant. That's how I remember it. The only thing that makes me revise my opinion somewhat is everything that followed it is just like magnitudes worse, orders of magnitude worse.
Yeah, I just want to read something because I don't think this is accurate, and I'm reading it because I think it's an important thing that's related to this discussion. I wish you had the courage to criticize current illegal puppet regime just the way you criticize Imran Khan's government. I don't know if you just tuned in, Z Sylvie, and I probably agree with you more than Hasan does on Khan. But Hasan has been doing that. That's like precisely what you have been doing during this interview.
Well, what is one supposed to criticize? They're illegitimate. You know, what more can you say? They're illegitimate. They shouldn't be there. Okay, they didn't win the election. They lost it catastrophically. They're only there because of backroom deals. Okay, what more do you want me to say? Even every good thing that they do is illegitimate, as far as I'm concerned, because they shouldn't be there.
Right.
Okay, and you've already spoken for an hour and a half with other people who have criticized them at length and very fairly, by the way. Like the constitutional amendment, absolute joke. What more do you want me to say? They're illegitimate. They shouldn't be there. That I think that basically just sums it up.
Yeah.
Now, in fact, one hears, for instance, that the chief minister of Punjab is doing a good job, on various areas, on certain areas, particularly dealing with pollution and infrastructure problems, doesn't matter to me, because at the end of the day, Imran Khan should be the leader of the country. He should be prime minister, and the only reason he isn't is because he fell foul with the military.
Right.
He fell foul of the military. So that's my view. I can criticize them more, but actually, you've had two people on who've done that, and they've done it pretty well, I think. And a lot of their points were fair.
And I think this is kind of in some ways, it's a stronger indictment of what the current government is doing, that someone who's a critic of Imran Khan is so critical of it. It's easy and expected for Imran Khan fans to be mad at the current government. So I have a question. Someone wrote, ask him if Imran Khan is corrupt. That's a question. And then I want to also, I don't actually know if that person thinks he is, like if he's challenging you because he doesn't think it, or he or she is hoping you will say that they're corrupt. So that's one question. Then I want to post this. From Maryam. I actually didn't realize this is from Maryam, because other people in the chat have posted similar things. But for 2.5 years out of his 3.5-year rule, there was COVID. Still, he did a great job. And you're saying he was not successful when GDP was great. All other economic indicators were good too. And I do want to find someone else who said something comparable, because I don't want people to think that I'm just showing. I seriously didn't see until I highlighted that comment. But there are other people who are making a similar point about how it was COVID and how he only had a short amount of time. Just wanted to hear your response to that. Yeah.
Well, we had longer than most prime ministers in Pakistan, than most prime ministers in Pakistan get. But you're happy, but his supporters are really happy to criticize the other ones. On the corruption point, the system is corrupt. The system demands corruption. Okay, it costs something in the region of $250,000 of your own money just to run for parliament, just to make a reasonable run at it. So if Barack Obama or Bill Clinton were Pakistanis, they would never be in politics. The system demands corruption. As far as the actual allegation, I'm not interested in the corruption argument, to be honest, because I know who wants you to think that all the politicians are corrupt. And I've always seen this. Do I think that Imran Khan is corrupt? I really don't know, and I don't care, because at the end of the day, that's not why he's in jail. Right. If it was his corruption that put him there, I can name 300 other people who ought to be there as well. That is not. No one cares about corruption. As far as people don't go to. No, I don't mean no one. I mean no one in power right now cares about corruption. That's not why people go to jail. That's not why they get repressed. But the system demands corruption. This much I'll tell you as well. The only people who can become politicians in Pakistan are people who come from generational wealth, or people who use other people's money and then later become beholden to them. Right. Or people who somehow raise that money, enter politics, and then have to make it back. That's a story.
And what did you say about, I think I missed your point about Clinton and Obama?
That if they were Pakistanis, they would not be able to enter politics because they wouldn't have the money that they would need to use themselves. They wouldn't have hefty enough bank accounts to enter politics. Okay. In fact, this is the one thing.
Corrupt, I would say, yeah.
Right. Well, this is the one thing which does mark Imran Khan out, is that this isn't a guy who came from huge generational wealth, And that's commendable. That's why he was able to speak to the aspirations of a particular demographic as well, right? Because he came from a different milieu. He's not the son of a massive sort of industrialist. He doesn't come from the feudal elite of this country, whose wealth is never taxed. He was actually a middle-class guy who rose on his own 2 feet. Do I think Imran Khan is corrupt? I don't like that question, because I think the military would like you to think everybody is corrupt. It's a foolish question to even engage with, because that's not the reason. I mean, as soon as you start getting into it, and this is why a lot of Imran Khan supporters, they made a big mistake, because they made that their entire crusade when they were essentially playing into the hands of the institution that wants to use that for its own benefits, as Barrister Akbar explained to you himself, in a very, very compelling way, much more compelling than mine.
One other comment in defense of it. GDP was 6.2. He negotiated contracts. He did not use public money. Health cards supporting the poor. Educated MNA. Not his relatives. Lots of other things. What's MNA? Do you know what that is?
Member of the National Assembly. So
okay.
What this person is saying is that his parliamentarians were more educated than the parliamentarians from other parties.
I see. Okay.
There's absolutely no evidence for that claim whatsoever.
Okay.
I mean, do you know them? You know, like lots of them jumped from one party to another. You know, like I mean, and then they defected as soon as he was put in jail, and they went on, and they were put under pressure. But this is the thing. But this is the point, right? You can't even criticize the guy without his supporters like sort of jumping on your back. You have to have like a better sense of history and understand his place. This is a guy who essentially was a beneficiary of the exact system that is now making him a victim. He wouldn't even have become prime minister in 2018 if the ISI hadn't helped him get there. Okay, that is, you know, like I mean, demonstrable. The army chief who went actually admitted it. He actually perjured himself when he basically said, you know, General Bajo basically admitted it. He was like, yeah, we helped this guy. You know, we brought him into power. But yeah, so that's my view on Imran Khan.
And people in the audience, you should be okay with this, because two things. One is Hasan is making I mean, not to be so ideologically transparent on my part, but whatever. Everyone knows, you know, I like to show both sides, but I think I make it clear that they're kind of two issues. And actually, I think the left faces this problem a lot. And we talked about this, Hasan, before you came on, which is like, how do you, like, I don't want to focus on Maduro's flaws right now, right? Because that's what's being done to him. So I feel a similar tension with this. Although I think I'm generally, like, all things being equal, I probably am less critical of him than you are anyway. But
you asked the question, right, Katie? You asked the question, and I really do want to, like, I really do want people to just think about this for a second. What was Imran Khan doing when, you know, like 3 prime ministers were in jail? Like, what was he doing? You know, was he speaking out against the system? I bet he would now. I hope he would now, right? But at the time, he was reveling in it. Right. You know, he was reveling in it. He was gloating about it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And this is before. Yeah. I mean, and this is before.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, I'll send you the link.
Yeah. No, I don't. I'm just saying I didn't. I was saying yeah, and then I realized I didn't know that, but I believe you. And I'm also not chastising people in the comments. I mean, Maryam said we are okay with Hasan's comments, but we have to answer where we feel he's wrong, which is totally fine.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
By
the way,
yeah.
No, go on.
I want to show a comment because actually it's kind of a perfect segue into what I was going to be asking you about next. So, Aishali 864 writes, agree with you, Pakistan's system is broken, but why a foreign government interfering to remove a legitimate democratic elected leader from military dictators serving the West for, quote, Greater Israel plan?
Oh, God. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the relationship between Pakistan and Israel. And, you know, to kind of pivot, I also have a tweet from, let's see, where is this? I have a tweet from Modi, speaking of Israel. Hold on one second. Where is that Modi tweet that I just had? Okay, here it is. Okay, so earlier today, Modi posted the following. Okay. Okay. Glad to speak with my friend, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and convey New Year's greetings to him and the people of Israel. We discussed ways to further strengthen the India-Israel strategic partnership in the year ahead. We also exchanged views on the regional situation, reaffirmed our shared resolve to fight terrorism with greater determination at Netanyahu. So then he tags him. So I wanted to know what the relationship between Pakistan and Israel is like. And if there's a new relationship, especially within the last year, between Pakistan and Israel.
I don't know. Honestly,
okay.
I don't know. I'll just tell you. I'll just tell you what I've seen. When members of the public have protested and when politicians have protested against Israel, it hasn't gone down particularly well with the state. And yet, Israel is just about the most unpopular country that in the world as far as Pakistanis are concerned. Imran Khan's interesting on Israel, because you will have read the Epstein emails, right? In which are you aware of this? Where Epstein basically called him a danger.
Yeah, we covered this before with I think it was with Moeed Pirzada. I think we definitely covered it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a great deal of confusion about that relationship too, because two of the main sort of newspapers in Israel published opinion editorials basically saying something along the lines of Imran Khan is the big hope for the Pakistan-Israel relationship. That he could be a sort of a game changer, and yet Epstein definitely didn't think so. So I'm not particularly clear on what the Pakistan sort of Israel relationship is. I do know that there was some talk. I mean, Marco Rubio and the State Department talked about Pakistan potentially taking part in a Gaza stabilization force. And that seems like a non-starter to me. Is this part of, the Pakistan-US rapprochement? Like, is this on the table? Like, I would like to think that it isn't, but I don't know. It certainly wouldn't go down well with the public. There isn't much of a relationship between Pakistan and Israel, at least on the face of things. And if it exists, I don't have enough information on it, to be honest.
Got it. Are you working on any other stories? And if so, what are they?
Well, don't know if I can tell you about them right now, but yeah, I'm interested. I'll tell you what I'm interested in is the blasphemy business gang in Pakistan, right? Essentially people who trap other people and extort them by sort of claiming that they blasphemed the prophet or made, sort of derogatory remarks about religion. That I'm interested in, and I'm sort of looking into that at the moment. So that's incidentally, actually, no, I probably shouldn't say this because no, I'll let that one pass. I was going to talk. Did you were speaking about the Economist article, weren't you, earlier?
Which one? Sorry, I don't.
The Economist article on Bushra Bibi. Have you read this?
I don't know. Did I show an Economist article? Don't think so. It was Business Insider.
Oh, no. I thought you were speaking about The Economist. Have you heard about The Economist article? The Economist published a piece in which it basically alleged that Imran Khan had convinced himself that Bushra Bibi was essentially a clairvoyant who could read into the future, and that he was taking decisions based on this while he was in office. It was based on her prophetic visions. Have you read that article?
Yes, I read an analysis of it. Yeah.
What did you make of that claim?
Well, I don't know. That's actually why I asked her. I asked her sister about it.
Sounds like misogynistic bullshit, doesn't it?
That's what I assumed. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And yet the claims that come out of it come from PTI. So the people who are actually quoted in that article, I know because the weird thing is it's actually people who would die for Imran Khan who say this. Which is like what I find amazing about it, because I thought it was like misogynistic bullshit when Vanity Fair wrote about it and when The Economist wrote about it. But it's troubling because the sources are actually, PTI people, like people who are in exile now who talk about it. So just thought that was worth mentioning as well.
Is Maryam here still? Because maybe she wants to respond. Let's see. Let me text her or WhatsApp her. This is not planned. I just wanted to, and of course she.
Because I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Because I'm intrigued.
I'm just saying to Maryam. Let me see something. I'm just WhatsApping her. And she may not be there to see it. Here's a real behind the what is it, fourth wall moment. 1 second.
No, because I just really wanted to, I wanted to ask her about it, about these claims that had been, sort of published, because the sources are PTI sources. That much I can tell you.
Okay.
So they're not, so if they were coming from...
Coming back. This is exciting. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to ask her about this. You've actually given me the opportunity to do so.
This is like a political Jerry Springer. I'm just kidding. It's not that. It's very respectful.
No, because I don't know, right? Like it's such an outlandish and far off claim, right? That you think it's like utter nonsense, and yet I sort of know who the sources are that are briefing this.
By the way, while we wait for Maryam to come back, someone very nicely, I asked for a video of Imran Khan so people could see him and hear him. That was in English. So here is someone on Patreon very kindly sent this to me. So let's take a look at this video, and it's from Sentient. So thank you. There's a clip collage of Imran Khan opposing military action. Okay, let's take a listen.
The worst thing that could happen is if there's a conflict between Iran and the US and its allies, it'll be a disaster. For us, Pakistan, it'll be a disaster. It'll be a disaster for the developing world because the oil prices will shoot up. Already we're trying to barely manage our budgets, current account situation. Suddenly everything will be offset. It'll cause poverty in the world. And God knows how long it will go on. So we in Pakistan pray that this does not happen. We have tried our best. We've already talked to Saudi Arabia, Iran, the United States. I spoke to President Trump yesterday, and I told him that this would be a disaster for us. I do not understand why countries go to resolve their differences through military conflicts. Because whenever, and this is just in our lifetime we've seen this, the moment you start a military conflict, you don't know where it is going to go. You can start a conflict, you don't know when it'll finish. And then it has unintended consequences. So we have seen in front of our eyes Pakistan joining the US war on terror. And I was the one who was objecting to it. I was openly against it, and I thought Pakistan should have stayed neutral. It should not have become partisan. Because Pakistan had nothing to do with 9/11. There were no Pakistanis involved. I mean, it's 19 years the US has been stuck in Afghanistan. Can this region afford another conflict? Well, I give my point of view. I don't know. I mean, I guess President Trump would have his own advisors. But I certainly gave my point of view, and I'm really anti these military solutions.
Okay, and now we have someone joining. Maryam is back. She cannot be on camera right now, but that's totally fine. We appreciate so much that she's here. I'm going to unmute her. Oh, sorry.
Can I ask her a question? Is that okay,
of course,
Katie?
Yeah. Did you unmute yourself, Maryam?
No, can you hear me, Katie?
Yes, we can.
Hi,
Yeah,
Hasan.
yeah. Hi.
Hi,
Okay.
hi, Maryam.
You can ask me as many questions as you want to.
If you want to see this full stream, if you're watching live, you're in luck. You got to see the full thing. If you want to see a little fascinating real-time discussion, unplanned discussion, debate-ish discussion between Hasan and Maryam about Imran Khan.
But it wasn't a debate, right? I was asking a
discussion.
question. I just wanted to know. Yeah. Okay.
If you want to see that fascinating discussion about Bushra Bibi, Imran Khan's wife, and also very problematic misogynist case made against her, you can do that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And Brad, is there anything else I need to say?
I was just, and if you don't want to, that's fine. But since you had said by the end of the program, we would have a better image, if I will show people that here is a better Minority Report meme.
Much better. Yeah. Thank you very much. And that was in reference to a comment made by Shahzad Akbar, our second guest. Okay, well, everyone.
No, this has been great, and thank you so much, Hasan and Miriam. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks
a lot. Thanks. Okay, well, thank you guys. Very informative, and this was a great stream. Don't forget to subscribe and give it a like. And again, to see the full stream, patreon.com. Well, let me just say, to see the full stream, go to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And what were you saying, Brad?
I was just going to reiterate how, in my opinion, I really do think it makes for, number one, more interesting discussions, but also, because sometimes, I don't know, there's plenty of platforms where, everybody just always agrees all the time on everything. And I feel like that can be nice, but oftentimes, what does that really do except for kind of just reinforce your own already, whatever position you already have, like that's why people would maybe like watch Fox News or something like that, is just, they just reinforce, they don't really challenge anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm pretty transparent, right? Obviously the show has a point of view. I think that again, people who are defenders of, I saw some people who were like, I'm going to unsubscribe, which I think is a little fragile and snowflake-ish. Like, you should be able to hear, especially when I have like, I don't know, the ratio of people critical of Khan to supportive of Khan is like 1 to 10, basically.
Right.
But also you should be able to hear counter arguments. And the other thing is like, again, if you're a Khan supporter, having someone critical of Khan who says he's absolutely legitimate and that the current government is illegitimate, that is a good thing. So thank you guys so much.
And if like if you are never met with, if your position, sure, we all have our preferences or our positions, and if those positions are come to the right way and we have things to back it up and things like that, then you should be able to engage with someone who maybe disagrees, and throughout that discussion you could hopefully, if everyone's speaking in good faith, you can start changing minds. Or for the audience, hopefully then maybe if you get into a discussion and someone disagrees with you, maybe you glean some things that would make you a better advocate for your positions, because you've been listening to, well, what happens if someone says, well, what about this claim that this person practices black magic or something like that? Well, I just think like you said, hopefully.
Yeah. And what better way to, if you disagree with someone, well, not this wasn't planned, but we got a real-time response. So
yeah, that was outstanding. That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. No one's commented on how cute Bucky is, which is pretty problematic. Okay. So I will see everyone next Tuesday night, if not before. Who knows if there's breaking news or something. Okay. Bye, everyone.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
And I don't know what the I'm doing.
Antifa!